You want to talk about the XPAD?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about the XPAD. It is the first airplane in the history of airplanes. It doesn't require a runway and doesn't require a human pilot. It's AI piloted and it's vertical takeoff, launch, and land. We've gone up against our F-16s and actual F-16s and F-16 versus F-16. And this was part of the DARPA ACE program, which was the next program from the DARPA Alpha Dogfight, where we've gone up against F-16 pilots. And yeah, we've AI pilot.
It's combat, bro.
Crushes
it.
Yeah. You want to talk about the XPAD?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about the XPAD. Now that we're talking about it. All right, so XPAD, just some background. Shield AI, when we think about hardware, like we want to build hardware's, really effing hard to build. It is because you're stuck with the design choices that you make for a long time. Software, you can quickly iterate on the design choices that you make. There's certainly there are challenges in architecting a good software system, but same in hardware, it's just harder to change things once you're bending steel and metal. So you have to get it right out of the gate. And then hardware is just when you're dealing in the real physical world. Everything's harder. Sensors fail, right? Computers have challenges, right? Sensors will fail for milliseconds on average. And there's just so many hard things about building hardware. So Shield AI is very deliberate about the hardware that we build. Has to be absolutely transformative. For VBAT, VBAT was, hey, we're going to transform ISR and targeting, right? We need more intelligence. McChrystal, very famous for saying intelligence drives operations. If we can transform ISR and targeting with VBAT, that's why we decide to buy VBAT and go with it. But we're not looking to build 26 different hardware products out there. We are an AI and autonomy company. We build amazing aircraft, and we have these great assets. We have a software engineering asset that's world-class. We have a hardware engineering asset that's world-class. And so we had to ask ourselves, okay, we've done VBAT. What's next? What's the next piece of hardware that we want to build? Do we want to build a one-way attack drone? Do we want to build a USV, a maritime platform?
Did you hear me?
Do we want to build a hypersonic
the guy
missile?
who invented the Gatling gun.
And so
his theory was that the gun was so devastating
our
it
head
would
of
end
aircraft,
warfare, basically.
head of our aircraft business, Armor
I'm
Harris,
sure they
came
thought
from
that about the
SpaceX,
nuke. They thought
came up
about
with this thing
no,
called
they
the
really do
XPAD.
have AI that
And
can
so
fly airplanes.
what is
and it's
XPAD?
getting that smart.
XPAD is
Are we
a
eventually
first of its
gonna get
kind
more, dude? That's not.
vertical takeoff, launch and land,
You're gonna have to stop with
multi-role
war, dude.
combat strike jet, platform.
War and advanced technology just don't go together. I'm thinking, dude. Star Trek might not be real.
Of airplanes,
if you don't give up war, you ain't gonna get there, dude. I think, yeah, that's probably part. You're just not gonna get there, dude. If you keep shaping every piece of technology you create into killing your fellow human beings, you are not going to fucking make it, dude.
Geographic combatant commanders, right? These are the 4 stars, admirals and generals running Indo-PACOM, running EUCOM, that are posed with the strategic problem. How do you deter our adversaries? And if necessary, fight to defeat our adversaries.
This is the fight right here. We are the pilots. We are the little pilots of our invisible AI fucking guard, fucking not,
having geographically distributed long-range fires that can be launched from anywhere on the battlefield.
It was a software battle.
And so now
it's not a hardware battle, dude. It's a software battle.
These fixed runways and a couple the United States has 11 aircraft carriers. We have to worry about a couple fixed runways, and these aircraft carriers now all of a sudden they have to worry about every 20-foot by 20-foot spot of Earth on the planet. And that is, why does that matter? Now it basically forces them to redefine their invasion calculus. If you don't know where America's assets are, especially our aerial assets, which are our number one conventional strategic deterrent, it's going to force you to rethink your war plans. It buys diplomacy another day. On the other side of the coin of what I would
War going
tell you
on,
about
bro.
like XBAT. And this is like, again, I want to be super clear, like XBAT is going to augment, fighter pilots for, quite some time. But like when I look at something
little
like the Joint
wingmen,
Strike Fighter, it is
them little
an
droid
incredible
wingmen.
capability. Like if you actually like dig into like what that capability offers the
But then you
USA,
got to
it's
ask, why are you
amazing.
doing that? Yeah.
But it requires runways. It requires hardened bunkers.
It's like that movie,
It
The Right
requires a
Stuff.
$10
Why are
million
you
pilot
putting
just to
people
get
in
like
that
to be,
can?
certified on flying it, right?
No,
Not even making them
what
like
the
an
fuck,
expert
dude? We
at
don't
that
need a
system, right?
person
It's
in
like
there.
I could put, when we became Navy SEALs,
But
we
they
weren't
stuck a
expert Navy
person in
SEAls on
there
day
so they
one,
could
right?
make,
$10
like,
million to make you,
fuck,
base,
dude.
just dangerous
Okay, I
enough with the
guess.
aircraft. It
Strap
is
some
limited
hamburger
range.
in that. No,
They
you
say
gotta.
it's
I
around
gotta
like
put some
550
hamburger on
nautical
top
mile
of my
combat
rocket, I
radius.
guess.
And so if you want to employ Joint Strike Fighter in the Pacific, where there are
Hey, don't
1,000
ignore me.
nautical
Don't get all
mile
busy.
ranges, you have to
Don't
have
get
refueling
all.
tankers. And
Yeah,
because
you
of the
got me
threat
to do.
environment, we've built autonomous refueling tankers, right?
Yeah,
Which
you
is
got
another
me
like expensive capability.
to do.
You
And
have built the refuel.
no, we did. Like the USA has built refueling tankers
Gotta put
for
hamburger on top
these
of that
Joint Strike
rocket
Fighters.
to make it work.
And then the platform
Like, what
itself is
the
$100
fuck,
million.
dude?
So when you look at the all-in total cost of capability for the Joint Strike Fighter, again, amazing capability. It's wildly expensive. It's probably like estimated $200 million to $250 million per aircraft. When you look at all these add-on capabilities, not to mention the total life cycle cost of it, the hourly cost of operating at $35,000 an hour. XBAT, vertical takeoff, launch, and land, no runways. It is, AI pilot, so no human pilot. It has a 2,100 nautical mile range with mission payload. We're targeting $27.5 million per pop on it with a $6,000 per hour operating cost for the aircraft. And so you're getting 5th, 6th gen capability at a fraction of the cost. And that's something that no one else is doing or offering.
Wow. I mean, the VBAT beat the F-35, correct?
No. So VBAT being
You tell him, bro. You tell him, bro.
No, VBAT XBAT can get confusing. VBAT's the Mini Reaper Predator. The XBAT in development. We've got a subsystem prototype that's flying in 2026, full system prototype flying in 2027, going to production in 2029. The AI pilot for that aircraft, we're developing AI pilots for this next generation of uncrewed fighter jets. And so we have not gone up against, F-35, but we've gone up against our F-16s, and actual F-16s, and F-16 versus F-16. This is part of the DARPA ACE program, which was the next program from the DARPA After Dogfight, where we've gone up against F-16 pilots, and we've AI pilot, like, it wins.
Crushes.
So
You ready to go take a look?
Yeah. And so we've got, a model out there
And
that
that's
excited
all
to show
you
you.
rest
It's really cool. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
do it.
Buzz
No
was-
matter where you're watching Sean
Buzz,
Ryan
when he
Show
came
from,
home,
if you
he's
get
like,
anything out of this, please like,
chicken
comment,
salad.
subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you
She's
possibly
back to your
can.
age, I
And
guess. You
if
forget
you're
we're
feeling
boys
extra
are like,
generous, please
turning
leave us a
into men.
review on Apple and
They're still
Spotify
little babies.
podcasts.
Ready to win big with Zinn? In the Win with Zinn sweepstakes, you could win $100,000 or one of 5,000 premium prizes.
I knew
How
you'd
would you
be
spend
fine.
$100,000? Enter now and you could find out. Warning, this
I
product
didn't
contains
know.
nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive
Oh, I guess he
chemical.
had a table. They came in last night, like 5 minutes before it closed or
I
something.
wondered because it was getting
And it was a
late.
big table, he said.
No, but they won't close it.
And they ordered like one of everything off the menu. The menu or something, or make your own pasta menu or something. He was like, yeah, that one table made us all late, like close late.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's the business.
Uh-huh.
It's like, I wish we could like close like, but it's not like no matter what you did, it would still be closing time, dude.
We got some insane Star Wars news today from Adam Driver himself about a potential Kylo Ren movie set after The Rise of Skywalker. Why does that make me angry? We'll talk about that and more in today's video.
We don't close until it says close.
Good times. Like, it'd be the same way, kind of like.
Before we begin, just a quick editor's note. I was initially going to upload a video today on Project Hail Mary because of today's news. That's been pushed to tomorrow. But if you'd like to see it tonight, I'm going to put it on Patreon. Any tier will get it. So $1.50 a month, you got that video plus a bunch of other stuff. You know, I was about to get my blood pressure raised probably by the Jays game tonight. Good luck to them in the ALCS. But Star Wars and Disney came together to raise my blood pressure for an entirely different reason, and man, this news has me extraordinarily frustrated. And it comes at a funny time. A lot of people are talking about how it was 10 years ago, a couple of days ago, that we got the first trailer for The Force Awakens. That trailer really was a spectacle. I actually believe The Force Awakens is pretty much exactly what the franchise needed. It was like the perfect blockbuster, even though it was derivative. What's important is that even with Han's death, it gave the franchise everything it needed, I think, to tell a really good episodes 8 and 9. And I remember starting YouTube about that time, being just so excited about Star Wars. I also put a tweet out the other day, which I think a lot of people agreed with, that somehow the trailer for Episode 8 was even better than that original Episode 7 trailer, which is one of the most famous movie trailers of all time. Since then, however, Star Wars is clearly a shadow of its former self. I don't blame The Last Jedi for that. I think The Last Jedi was at least someone's vision. It was creative. It didn't work for a lot of people, myself included, in many aspects. But Episode 9 was the entry, more so than any in Star Wars history, which felt like a corporate production, a cash grab, soulless. You can imagine the word, and it all comes down largely to timing, JJ not having enough time to make his film after the initial script for Duel of the Fates was dropped. And a lot of that comes down to one man, Bob Iger, and the timing, the required timing for Star Wars movies, how they wanted an immediate return on investment. That ended up being just the worst decision ever, and it's haunted them since. And you know, after the reception to Episode 9, sort of some of the fan backlash, I think a lot of us thought that the big actors, the Adam Drivers, the Oscar Isaacs, they were probably done with the franchise. That's why when I saw today's news, I was genuinely shocked. I thought this was a leaker or a scooper, but this story comes from the Associated Press, and specifically Jay Coyle, who sat down with Adam Driver. He reveals that he felt like after Episode 9, there was unfinished business for Kylo Ren and Ben Solo, and that he worked with Steven Soderbergh to outline a story that was pitched to Kennedy, i.e. Kathleen Kennedy, Carrie Beck, and Dave Filoni. They were interested, so the filmmakers put together a script, something Driver calls one of the coolest effing scripts I'd ever been a part of. We presented the script to Lucasfilm. They loved the idea. We took it to Bob Iger and Alan Bergman. They said no. They didn't see how Ben Solo was alive, and that was that. It was called The Hunt for Ben Solo, and it was really cool, but it is no more, so I can finally talk about it. Soderbergh said, I really enjoyed making the movie in my head. I'm just sorry the fans won't get to see it. What? Like, what is going on here? What is Disney thinking? This is the same company that in the 9th inning, baseball reference for the Blue Jays tonight, brought back Palpatine, which I do think was the right idea, but with a somehow Palpatine returned line. This is the main character of the sequel trilogy, the antagonist who gets his last-minute redemption and who was almost universally loved. This is so fucking dumb by Disney, and the fact that this is now being spoken about says, yeah, this probably never will happen. Listen, Star Wars is, above all else, a modern fairy tale. It's a fable. If there's a good story in the universe, if there are compelling stories within the universe and compelling characters within the universe, you make that work. Star Wars is a medium to tell these stories and to write off, oh, we don't know how Ben Solo will come back, as an excuse to not make this movie with an incredibly talented actor who you're genuinely lucky still wants to be associated with your product after how mangled Episode 9 was. Plus, of all people, Steven Soderbergh, what's going on? Like, how? And you know, this is partially why I'm less critical of people within Lucasfilm than others.
Strength training, now at a new level. Gym Monster 2 is an all-in-one design that covers 100% of strength workouts you can do in the gym. With a self-standing small footprint structure, you can set it up without any restrictions. The cables are adjustable to 12 different levels from high up to floor level. And a big screen and a sound system keep you laser focused and on track on your workout. With electric resistance motors, Gym Monster 2 offers various dynamic weight modes that change resistance while you lift.
I'm on, dude.
Bluetooth
Keep on going.
Like, I'm not on the Kathleen Kennedy hate train. I think obviously Lucasfilm has made some mistakes, but I also think a lot of the individual stories have been okay, and where the real trouble comes is Bob Iger and Disney. I just genuinely don't understand, given the state of Star Wars, given how popular Kylo Ren and Ben Solo is as a character, how good of a director Steven Soderbergh is, how good of an actor Adam Driver is, that you say no to this opportunity. Why you ignore the people in Lucasfilm saying this is a good idea for no reason. I feel so frustrated right now. It just feels like, despite some products being good, some being excellent, and some being bad, Disney as an organization has made every wrong decision when it comes to the Star Wars brand. It started from the very beginning, needing that immediate return on investment for a franchise that has existed for 40 years. They could have set the sequel trilogy out over 9 years rather than 6 or whatever it was, 5, and it would have been completely fine. 3 years between movies would have been perfect. It would have given them time to plan, it would have given them time to coordinate, and it would have given them time to make a cohesive story. No, they need that immediate return on investment. They see The Force Awakens make $1 billion. I was trying to exaggerate, but obviously it was far more than $1 billion. $1 billion fucking domestic dollars, and they try to go the Marvel route. Movies every year, and that works for Rogue Squadron. I almost said Rogue Squadron, I'm so flustered right now. Rogue One, because that movie is good. But then you get a Han Solo movie. A dumb idea. Nobody cares about the backstory of essentially an archetype. He's a scoundrel. You can imagine it's not that interesting. So that flops. They get through the trilogy. The Rise of Skywalker still makes good money. And they are gifted, absolutely gifted, The Mandalorian. Another big cultural behemoth at a time.
Mic on?
Huh?
Those are mic on?
Yeah. So careful. Milk. There's milk for your donuts if you want it, and there's juice either way.
Ooh, I kind of like them without milk.
Do you?
Kind of tastes good
You don't
without.
need it?
No, I think when they're fresh, I don't eat it.
Maybe. Are they nice and soft?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
But when they get older, I think you need to
Yeah.
dunk them in milk.
Sort of dry.
Mm-hmm.
When the milk comes in to rescue. Milk rescue, like hot girl. Rescue. Right, I'm gonna give you some potato chips, right? Go with this. And then I guess you can pick the rest of the fruit cup. Probably. We have more juice boxes, I think, yes. I think we got a thing of juice box though. Oh, it's saying it's an applesauce. Plus we have to. You want some tea grams?
Yes.
You haven't done that. I don't have to either, actually.
I did it one time this week.
One time?
One time.
One. Two. Little chips. 3. Hey, guess what? I forgot to tell you.
What?
You're beautiful. You're so smart. And I love you. You're so popular. Everybody likes you because you're so nice. You're kind. You're honest. Did I tell you that? Did I tell you how proud I am of you? Well, I'm telling you right now. Right now. How's the new puzzle? Is it a good one? Good. Oh, am I supposed to be sending you
Water?
in a sandwich? I just sent it in a container with some chips.
Oh.
Is that good?
Yeah.
I can cut you one. You want me to cut it and put it in a bag? Yeah, so you can just make it. You'll just have to put it on here on your bread. Yeah. You want a half croissant maybe?
Half croissant. Yeah.
Half croissant? Okay. And what about you, Mom? Croissant or chips? Do you want me to throw a croissant in a bag for you? Okay.
It's not the meal without the croissant.
I like it with the chips, actually. So probably cut it in half here,
Yeah.
and then you'll make it. Okay.
And then give one half to me. Oh,
Yeah, the
Dad.
croissant does kind of make it unique.
They say they're frightfully frosted.
How do you think? Do you think they're frosted by a ghost?
Probably.
Maybe it's zombies. They have a bunch of zombies on a conveyor belt.
No, pumpkin.
Ugh.
Pumpkin.
Pumpkin? What do you mean?
Like the donuts
Yeah.
go into a jack-o'-lantern and then they turn
Oh,
orange.
they turn orange.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a big jack-o'-lantern. The conveyor belt takes them in there.
Frightfully frosted.
And then there's lightning inside. You can see it in the eyes. It goes, and you hear thunder in there, and they come out the other side and they're frightfully frosted. I wonder why. It probably scares them, maybe.
Yeah.
You think that's it?
And they turn orange.
It scares them so bad they get frosted orange.
Yes.
They get fright.
Can I have some more donuts?
Yeah, we're all hollowed. All Holy's Eve.
Oh, it is?
That's what Halloween is. It's the day before the feast, the All Saints Day.
Oh.
And then All Souls, it goes All Saint and All Souls. It goes. So that's what it's Holy Eve. It's the eve before All Holy Day, yeah, All Saints Day. All Saints Day and All Departed Day.
Actually, wait. We can make some. Wait, I have a more even better one.
What?
The donuts go through all of the Halloween monsters.
Yeah.
Then they turn orange.
It's like a whole little process.
Mm-hmm.
I think your mom was gonna like some shit.
Yeah, she likes them for recess.
Yeah. Ooh, like that. Do that. Ooh.
No.
I think it's a whole like assembly. It's a haunted assembly.
Oh, okay.
And there's monsters on different stations.
Oh, okay.
Each Halloween and they keep it scared. Whoa! And then by the time they get to the end of it,
They're orange.
they're orange.
They're orange.
They're just orange. And it's rightfully frosted.
Because they got frightfully scared.
You know, it's Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween, bro. What the hell? On your Halloween cereal? What's up with that?
Yeah, that was.
We don't get Christmas cereal either, though, do we? They don't really get Christmas. I don't do Christmas.
They have a lot of Christmas.
Christmas cereal? We'll see. We just thought about that.
I don't know. They haven't. In stores, they haven't done any of the special ones, like any of them.
It may just be Lucky Charms and St. Patrick's, because that's why St. Patrick's does Lucky Charms. Because it's St. Patrick's Day.
But yeah, it was weird because none of the like classified special ones were there.
Yeah.
It just switched to Christmas.
Yeah. Think about it. All right. Good job, girl. I think I'm getting closer to the end of the game. I guess I wasn't as close as I thought. But I'm back where I started.
Oh.
I came back home. All leveled up. Now I'm leveled up. Just came back home.
You have so much auras.
I used my rocket launcher yesterday. You missed it, bro.
Oh.
I did.
What did it do?
I went and attacked this drug dealer's house.
Oh.
And they were like all in the front yard and on the front porch shooting at me.
Mm-hmm.
So I got them with a rocket.
Was it like a big one?
It's kind of big. Not super big, but yeah, it's pretty big. I pressed the win button. Win.
Win.
Gotta win.
Win. Gotta win.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a long walk up there to get that thing. You saw me. And walk all the way up to that deserted
Desert.
Pueblo village.
Pueblo.
Pueblo village.
Pueblo.
All right, we bought coffee. We checked the oil in the car. We got pretty close.
I gotta go get dressed and all
Yes.
this.
Oh, juice box. Juice box. Juice box and a nap.
When Star Wars really needed it. So what do? They fuck up in almost the exact same way. After The Mandalorian Season 2, instead of letting things sit for a while to recognize that this should be a 40, 50, 60-year brand, not a 5-year brand, they mess around with the Book of Boba Fett and try to make that Mando Season 2.5. And by now, everything that's happened in a very well-loved Mando Season 2 has been essentially outdone to the point where The Mandalorian is back in the Razor Crest now. It's just capitalism. It's just need to earn money. We need to earn money. So we pump out a million shows, so much that the good and interesting ones, like even Skeleton Crew, get ignored because people are used to slop. And now this happens. And it's just so funny because Disney, they don't approve this, but in the background now, we've got the worst ever background comics for Kylo Ren. Everything interesting about that character has been wiped away by just terrible comics. I know Charles Soule is a talented writer and a talented comic writer, but these comics and Kylo Ren's backstory are so stupid. The Knights of Ren being a speeder gang, it's just everything has been so mismanaged. It is so frustrating. Now we've got a Mandalorian and Grogu movie. You compare the trailer of that to the Force Awakens trailer or the trailer for Episode 8, which has been going around, how epic and exciting and special those felt, and this feels like slop. You've got Mandalorian running around with Rod of the Hutt. It's beyond parody. This is why I'm moving the channel away from Star Wars. I love Star Wars. It's my favorite franchise, my favorite fictional world of all time, and it's not even particularly close. I love it, but Disney doesn't. Many, many good things have happened to the brand since the purchasing by Disney, whether it's the creation of these characters I do like Rey, like Kylo Ren, like Finn, like Poe, shows like Star Wars Rebels or The Mandalorian or Ahsoka, but it feels more and more like the good things that happen are despite the poor management from the top, not because Disney is doing the right thing. Really, the only good thing I can say about Disney is that for those big trilogy movies, they had an appropriately large marketing budget. This also really just sucks, and I'm adding this at the end, because we don't really get to see very much of Ben Solo. Obviously, there are cracks through the first 2 movies, and those are compelling. Then we get a little bit of him at the end, and it's great. Now, no more. I don't get it. I really don't. Anyway, that's all I've got. Bye-bye.
It's not easy being the one everyone counts on to keep your operation running. That's why at Grainger, we're here for you, with professional-grade industrial supplies and fast delivery. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
All right, fellow babies, welcome to Pactor Factor on Sifted.net. If you are a Patreon patron or YouTube subscriber, thank you for all of the support. Shane appreciates it. If you can, remember, please, to link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account. That's everybody, subscribers and not. That's free, costs absolutely nothing. Amazon pays. It's all included in your Amazon Prime subscription. So please link those 2 accounts. There are instructions in the show description below.
What you want?
Costs you nothing. Amazon pays. Stick it to them because Shane gets paid. Our question today comes from Sifted from at least 2 users, Joaquim Dragoon and Allison. Why are people up in arms with Saudi Arabia buying EA, considering Saudi Arabia is a known U.S. ally? What are the pros and cons of EA going private versus staying public? Why does Saudi Arabia want to be involved in gaming? Do you think this will have an impact on including same-sex or transgender characters on themes in EA's games going forward? Well, your last question kind of answers the first question. So there are a lot of people who disapprove of how the Saudis manage human rights. And, until recently, women couldn't drive in Saudi Arabia. I think maybe the last 5 years. Women are required to wear a head covering, whether they're Muslim or not. There's all sorts of rules. They're clearly not very friendly to transgender or gay people.
They got bought and taken private.
So, they're
Like
allegedly,
off the stock market,
more than allegedly, a Washington Post reporter was murdered and dismembered at the order of the Saudis. So, they don't like dissent.
I guess people are getting
so
so
I think
rich
there's a
now,
lot
they
of people
don't
who
need
don't like
the
them.
market.
I have to say,
Because that's why all
they're
those
not
companies
alone
went, but you needed
in
investor money
human rights abuses, and
to
it doesn't
compete.
impact
I
the
guess now
output of the company if
some
they're
of these
merely
people
a
have so
shareholder.
much money.
But if they become an owner, then I think there are people who are
I don't see
concerned
how
that they
private
would,
companies compete with
in
the public
fact, impose
companies. Public companies
restrictions
have just so much
on
more
inclusion.
resources.
We have a whole segment of the population who hates it, and we have a whole segment of the population who loves it, and game companies have to do whatever they think is appropriate to attract the widest possible audience. And so, it's like that transgender
They don't have
influencer
investors,
drinking
dude. Maybe
Bud Light.
private
Like,
investor. I don't know how
who
that
cares?
would work. Yeah.
Transgender people get thirsty.
But in
They
exchange
drink
for
beer.
public
Like,
investment,
again, it
that's
was
where
a
we
huge
get the
controversy. Why? It was Bud
book sales and
acknowledging,
all that
hey,
shit.
transgender people
Yeah.
drink our products too. If
And
you
they
hate
have
it, then you hate it, and
regulations
you're a hater,
over
and that's fine. But
That's
people
probably
are
why
up
they
in
don't
arms
like
with
being
Saudi Arabia because
public
they're on the other
and
side
stuff.
that
We'll
DEI
see,
is
dude.
good. I happen to be on that camp.
The Saudis
If
have a
you're on
lot
the
of
on
money.
the side that DEI is bad, you
Do they have more
love
money
the
than
Saudi
all of us
crackdown.
put
Whatever.
together?
I don't think it matters. People don't like the Saudi human rights abuses. Being a U.S. ally is pretty irrelevant. It isn't a financial thing. So if it were Russia buying it, people would be up in arms, and so would the U.S. government, because we have sanctions on Russia and we don't want Russia to benefit at all. If it were China buying it, we have issues with China stealing U.S. technology and privacy, and Google the TikTok ban.
Johnson, I think
it would be a
there's women
problem.
over to
Saudi is
I can tell in
generally
Sydney's voice.
perceived to be kind of
Never said before, woman,
benign
retired teacher, gonna
owner
go
of
through this
financial
shit.
assets.
This episode of Pactor Factor is brought to you by DeShazer Ryan Realty.
You're at the
It's time
end
to
of your
find out
career.
why everyone is buying homes in
Turn into the
Montana.
witch
Right
all
now,
of a sudden.
DeShazer has
I'm
a
the
beautiful
witch teacher.
single-level
What the?
home
I
with a
know,
triple
like
garage
I didn't sign up for
available
this
in the best
fucking
neighborhood
shit,
in
dude.
Libby, Montana. This custom
I'm sure that
3-bed,
some
2.5
teachers who
bath
enjoyed
home
it.
has a 500 square
I
foot
think Miss
patio
Pike
for
enjoyed it.
entertaining. It's built to last.
She was a
with
military
solid
wife
doors,
and a military
Anderson
mother,
windows,
and
an
I
asphalt
think she
driveway,
enjoyed
central AC and heat,
bringing
and
reality
private
down
well to
on
run a
young,
sprinkler
arrogant
system.
fucking
The price was
children.
recently reduced, and owner financing is available
No, we're
with
just
20%
reality.
down. No matter
Miss
where you're
Pike
looking to buy in the
enjoyed,
U.S.,
I
Doug
think,
DeShazer is licensed to help.
waking
Make
kids
him
the
your
fuck
real
up
estate
to
consultant
what they
at
were about to walk the fuck into.
406-291-1643.
And yeah, we were on a
That's Doug
military
DeShazer
dude.
at
Like, yeah,
406-291-1643.
her husband died. Fucking
Or go to
MIA.
LibbyMontanaRealestate.com.
They tend not to tinker with stuff.
This is what you're about
They
to walk
own,
into, you little arrogant fucks
Monopoly
who won't
Go,
listen
and
to
they
me, who
own
won't pay
Pokemon
to.
Go, and
Like,
from what I hear from Scopely,
motherfuckers, you're gonna wind up in prison,
no
wind
change.
up
They run
dead.
their businesses the same way they were before.
Worse.
So I think the
It's
Saudis
worse
will
than prison,
be a
dude.
financial buyer. They're buying this to make money off of EA's current assets. And they're buying it because I think that if you combine the intellectual property at EA with the prowess of
It's my job. My job is to start letting you
actually
know, hey,
global business model.
it's not all rainbows and unicorns out there, guys.
Free to play.
And like,
You don't have to
no,
buy
and then
FIFA
I
first.
broke
You'll
her
go
and
revenue
I
by a billion.
lived through
You do those two
stuff.
things.
My nephew
So I
died.
personally
No,
think it's a
dude,
great
that's
deal.
it.
Wake
The structure of the
You're
deal,
getting
like,
20 billion in
you're
debt
becoming a
has,
true adult,
with the
and that's
Saudis
where
behind
you
it, $1 billion a
experience.
year.
We had experience in
interest
He's like,
expense.
I don't want to read about you in the
EA
newspaper.
right now throws
Wake
off
up
two.
and just turn it
If
in.
I'm right about
Come on,
mobile
guys.
Hello.
and,
This shit
FIFA
gets
Ultimate
real.
Team being put
Yeah.
on
I know you
free
don't.
play
I know
every
you're
year,
protected. I
that
know
too
we all
will be
love
3 or 4
you.
Yeah.
And all.
So
And
they're
that's
going
the
to cover the
point. That's why
interest
I'm up.
expense by a lot.
Sooner or later,
No
that shit
bank
is gonna
gonna
get
foreclose
moved on
on
you,
Saudi
bro.
Arabia and then they'll repay the
No.
debt out of free
And so
cash
that
flow.
is kind
And
of
the idea is that Silver
yeah,
Lake's going
right.
to make money over time.
Real talk
Obviously, they
here.
expect to make money. The
Real
debt
talk.
exists
Real talk.
solely so the
Real
Saudis
Time to
don't
wait
own
and
95%. What are the pros and cons of VA going
That's
private
the way
or
it
staying
is.
public? Well, if they
Time
stay
to wait,
public,
wait.
they won't do those things. They won't do mobile because they have no clue how to do mobile.
Oh yeah, you can. Oh, that's why you want. Yeah,
You
go
can
ahead.
pull up a Pactor
All right, and
Factor
then
or
Sydney,
Pack
are you
Attack
ready to go?
from at least 10 years ago, and I said
is your lunch?
repeatedly, EA sucks at
Oh, so
mobile.
you're not
I think
ready to
EA was unwilling and
Bless you.
unable to take a risk on new IP, so we haven't seen new IP.
Good
They
morning,
don't have
routine.
anything in the
Start the
pipeline
call.
yet, and they just
Is
canceled
that the sweatshirt you got
Black
this
Panther
summer?
game and a Star Wars game.
That's a pretty
license
good
and
pick,
license.
dude.
They are
Neat.
not
It says
innovative.
California
They
on it
have
in white letters.
kind of flushed
Yeah.
the Need for Speed
Yeah.
brand, the Burnout brand. They have so many brands that they
I was
don't
telling
make
Bub,
anymore.
I'd like to
think
go
that
out
they
one
have
more time.
just completely stalled in their creativity.
Just me.
Do I think the Saudis
Oh,
are super
yeah.
creative?
Maybe
Absolutely
Bubs.
Yeah.
But the Saudis are making a $50
Like,
billion
I can see my
bet, so they have an
mom and all
incentive
do it. That's
to
fine.
try new
It's not
things. And so
weird
I think
thinking.
that
It was-
new ownership that has a long horizon that doesn't care about quarterly
Take my
profits
mom to the
can
beach.
take some risk on IP. And
She
I
might not
actually
even wanna
think
go,
the
dude.
talent
Yeah.
at EA is good, and they'll
Jaylene
probably
said she
come
can
up with
hardly
stuff.
get her to talk
But
to her.
Ah.
Well, at least she's
that's
still
the
talking
big
to her.
pro.
Jaylene still talking.
Why does Saudi want to be so
I
involved in
didn't even
gaming?
know she was talking
They have
to
a generational
Right.
aspiration.
Yeah, but
Look
she
that one up.
doesn't. It's like,
To
Right.
move
Like
jobs to
Jason.
Saudi
Hi, how
Arabia.
are you?
So they
Bye.
have, is
And like
last I
Jason's
checked,
like, what the
2,000
fuck?
different
I
investments.
think what happens
And
is you
again,
get old and
I'm sure
you start
ranging
living
from
in the past.
automotive to consumer
Like you
packaged
start
goods.
thinking of heaven,
But
dude.
they want to
Of
drive
seeing your
investment
parents in
in Saudi
heaven.
Arabia
Like you
and
got
ultimately
my
drive
mom has
employment in Saudi Arabia.
grandparents.
And
And
they're
aunts
not
and
going to tell
uncles that
EA
she loves
everybody's
and
fired
got,
if you want a job, it's in Saudi Arabia. That won't happen. But what they will
That
tell
she
EA
wants to
is
see.
as
So
you
I
build
think that's
out
what
your AI
start doing.
tools and you create,
Thinking
different
about
quality
your family,
testing
your
using AI
loved
tools or
ones.
different art
Yeah.
creation using AI tools.
Going
Can
back
you
and
set
seeing
up
your
the
mom when
quality
she was
control
young.
studio in Riyadh with new employees? And of course they can.
I
They probably
don't.
will.
I should.
So as they hire new people, brand new jobs for new things, start hiring in Saudi Arabia. And I think that's actually smart of the country. That's what makes America great, that we have so many different industries and our college grads
Does that
tend to
hair
stay
look
here
good? Did
and
you
work
spray
here.
it a little
And
bit?
we're
to get the
very
frizz
attractive
down?
to foreign college grads who want to
Say.
come here and work here. Why gaming? It's a growth industry. It's a growth industry ripe for
White girls, you gotta
consolidation. They
spray
have
that
a lot
hair
of
down a
money.
little bit.
It's the right kind of
Walk around all
activity.
frizzy.
It's not going away. We're going to
Don't
keep
think
playing
you're
games
Mulan
forever.
or something.
And even if you,
You ain't
say, I don't
Mulan.
think it's going to grow,
You
it's
can't just
$200
wake
billion,
up and your hair
so
be
that's big
perfectly
enough.
straight.
If they want to make a splash, buy the biggest phone in the business.
What?
So, will it impact same-sex or transgender? I don't know. I would imagine not. The resistance to
whoa.
any kind of social experimentation in the game is only within Saudi Arabia, and so they require that like films be sanitized to that or games. And so sure, they'll have a Saudi version, but if it works in the UK or the US, why do they care? I mean, I don't think
Just
they're
now?
going
Was
to
he
sanitize.
doing
But
that
we'll see.
just-
I don't know. That'll make the developers unhappy.
You just caught him
If they
doing
do,
it?
and that'll chase
Yes.
developers out. So I'm
Sucker.
I
hopeful
thought
they
he
don't.
was chasing
First and
a
last
bug,
questions are
and
the
then
right
I,
ones.
like,
People are up in arms because they
then he
worry
started
about,
scratching at the carpet.
depiction
I was
of,
like, oh,
transgender, same-sex
Yeah,
characters,
told you.
which
Gonna
are
try,
real
yeah.
people in real life situations, so why wouldn't they be in games? And some people go crazy. They're real people, and they deserve to be left alone. Look, at the end of the day, the Saudis
That spot,
don't
even
care
you're right, even
what
though we
gamers think of
shampooed,
them,
they can smell shit.
positive or negative.
Let me
They're
check the
not
oil real
buying
quick.
EA, so
Coffee's
gamers will
coming.
like them. They don't care what you think. This will be about as well known out there as the fact that Take-Two publishes Grand Theft Auto. People think, Grand Theft Auto is Rockstar. They don't even know who Take-Two is. So I would say, Take-Two recognition among the public is higher than the Saudis owning EA. People are not going to know. After this news cycle passes, no one's going to remember who owns EA. But that's not why they're doing it. So this is not something like Live Golf on TV every
Your
week,
coffee's
where
ready.
they remind you every week the Saudis own the golf circuit. Isn't that cool? No whitewashing here at all. They don't care. They are not buying this for that reason. Now, golf, yes. They invested in golf. Are they owning soccer teams? Yes. Because they're trying to appear normal to the masses. This is not that at all. This is financial. They actually believe they're going to make money on this, and they could give a shit who knows it or who cares what they own. So no, I don't think they're doing it to whitewash. So again, to our Patreon patrons and our YouTube subscribers, thank you. You're keeping Shane afloat. Anybody who has an Amazon Prime account, please remember to link that to your Twitch Prime account. You have to do that every month. There are instructions on how to do so in the show description below. It's free for you. You stick it to Amazon. You have to redo it every month. So please relink those two accounts. Shane gets an extra $250. It costs you absolutely nothing. You're sticking it to Amazon, and it's free money. It's part of your subscription, so take advantage of it. If you don't, you're a chump. That's it for Pactor Factor. I will see you, my fellow babies, next week.
Dad, please, this mobile could be my ticket to Yale.
Another Bush kid. Another Bush kid. How about this girl?
Her grades and test scores are superb. She's got Bula. But does she have Bula?
What about this mobile she did in the 2nd grade?
Except full ride. Bula, 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 bula.
Not so fast, Lisa. You didn't apologize to your 2nd grade teacher. And all we do at Yale is apologize.
Sorry, sorry, sorry. Please excuse our quirks. Quirks, quirks, quirks. Won't you kindly listen to us rich male jerks? We sing for free.
Goodbye, college fund.
We can't be stopped.
Well, I am here to offer you money. I'd like to endow a Department of Nuclear Plant Management.
Wonderful. Of course, we can't do nuclear.
Our students are highly entitled wusses.
You'd be creating a space for violence to happen.
Release me, you hound.
Oh, yeah.
What's happened to this place?
Yeah.
This was the home of ruthless media disruptor Samuel F.B. Morse. Who's his successor? That fellow?
Fellow, that word is cisgender normative, okay? You're worse than Hitler!
Too late for flattery. I'm not giving this school a dime. Former bonesman.
Living or dead?
Living, but you'd better hurry. Engage cloaking device. Nothing relaxes me like a stiff drink from the skull of Martin Van Buren.
Care for some Pancho Villa?
Has everything in this school surrendered to diversity? I could start my own college.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. We can't talk business in here. Just general schemes for world domination. Fraternal handshake.
Oh, all right.
You are on my radar.
What you doing, Mr. B?
I never want to see the word Yale again. We're changing all our locks to Schlage. To be honest, I'm thinking of starting my own college. A for-profit college? Excellent. Kudos. And now for your first economics lesson. So long, suckers! Bula bula. Moola moola.
The poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem, better known as the Knights Templar, are as absolutely famous as they are subject to being associated basically with nonsense masquerading as history. In fact, I sometimes talk about the Templar nonsense coefficient, that the longer a History Channel episode about them or an internet video talks about the Templars, there's basically a geometric rise in speculative, made-up, dumpster fire misinformation. The Templars discovered the Kabbalah, or they found the Holy Grail, or the Ark of the Covenant, or all those socks that go missing from the dryers all over the world. They were all in the Temple Mount somehow. And then there's something, Mary Magdalene, baby, magic, RH negative bloodline, Atlantis for some reason. Let's just throw Atlantis in there because, of course. But then they buried their treasure over in Canada and Nova Scotia on Oak Island, which there's some Michigan guys digging that up. And then they rejoined the Zeta Reticuli people via the Bermuda Triangle after waging a successful space war with the Black Cube Blizzard people out there near Saturn. And they're now, I don't know, waging a war against the undead and Ravenloft or something. You know, average History Channel, average conspiracy tube drivel. But it's ironic that in all this bovine diaper filler, that the actual mysticism deeply connected to the founding of the Knights Templar is basically never discussed or explored. Well, except for some cringe Catholic propaganda like, you know, you want to be cool knight warrior dudes, right? Well, be like a 12th century monk and don't think dirty thoughts, and you too will be a knight warrior dude for Christ. If you don't think the dirty thoughts. The truth of the matter is that the Knights Templar do have a absolutely fascinating connection to some of the most profound and moving mysticism in history. A mysticism of self-annihilation through love, culminating in a divine, ecstatic kiss. A mysticism developed by a monk himself from a knightly family. So he kind of knew the ropes about this knighthood business, and actually cousin to one of the core founders of the Templars, Hugh of Pine, but who also composed what might be considered today to be the spiritual manifesto at the very foundation of the Templar movement, itself imbued with contemplative mysticism, but also a lethal spirituality in which malicide, the killing of evil, found mystical justification. This is the mysticism of contemplation and love of the Cistercian monk Bernard of Clairvaux. If you're interested in magic, hermetic philosophy, alchemy, Kabbalah, or the history of the occult, make sure to subscribe here to Esoterica and check out my other content on topics in esotericism. Also, if you want to support this work of providing accessible, scholarly, and free content on topics in esotericism, where we actually get behind the misinformation and get to the actual facts of history, I'd hope you consider supporting my work over at my Patreon with a one-time donation, with the super thanks options you can find beneath the video, or picking up some of our cool black metal style merch over at the store tab of the channel. But now, let's turn to the actual mystical foundations of the Knights Templar, a combination of contemplative mysticism, divine love, and spiritual warfare made truly lethal in the thoughts of Bernard of Clairvaux. I'm Justin Sledge, and welcome to Esoterica, where we explore the arcane in history, philosophy, and religion. While the latter Italian Renaissance truly saw a flowering, and especially the arts and the revival of ancient wisdom, the Renaissance of the 12th century was surely its intellectual and spiritual foundation. I kind of like the Renaissance of the 12th century better, anyway. It was a time of extraordinary literary output in both religious and popular imagination. It was a massive translation projects from Arabic to Latin that saw the foundations of things like alchemy, astrology, and ceremonial magic in Western Europe. And there was a brief interlude between the First and Second Crusades and a general sense of reform sweeping through the Latin West. I know that the medieval period is sometimes thought as static, but it was incredibly dynamic, and the 12th century was extremely dynamic. In the monastic world specifically, this reform sought a return to a more literal understanding of the Benedictine rule, rejecting what some monks at the time took to be the rise of monastic decadence. Monastic decadence. They were like eaten cake. This reform movement produced, among other movements, the radical white-habited Cistercians, convincing dozens of his friends and family into monastic life. Bernard of Clairvaux would enter the new order in around 1113 before himself being made an abbot in 1115. 2 years. Now, this isn't the place to recount the details of Bernard's extraordinary life. He was an advisor to popes and kings and princes. He moderated a papal schism in 1138. He personally called for a crusade in 1146, but it failed in 48, and that was something he never really lived down. He laid siege to early scholastic philosophy in his battles with Gilbert de la Pourrée and Peter Abelard before passing from this world on the 20th of August, 1153. He would be made a saint in 1174 by Alexander III and a doctor of the church in 1830 by Pius VII. Indeed, he stood in a unique place in church history, somehow the last of the church fathers, but also the first true great medieval luminary as well. His letters, he corresponded with the abbess, scientist, and mystic Hildegard of Bingen, including the who's who of everybody else that was famous during that period, but around here we're Hildegard people. He composed sermons and treatises that now comprise 3,500 pages of beautiful Latin style in total. It's a monumental output worthy of a truly titanic figure. And as well as an abbot, politician, and social organizer, Bernard pioneered the mystical agenda that would lay the foundations of European mysticism for centuries to come. Down to this day, if you consider yourself a mystic, you probably at some level owe your debt to Bernard of Clairvaux. In fact, even among non-Christians, I'd say he's influential. His most important mystical works include his tracts on the degrees of pride and humility, which he argued that what we might now call the ego is the central impediment to mystical union with the divine. On loving God, which argues that the experience of love alone, and not logical argumentation of any kind, is the only true path to the divine. On grace and free will, which argues that though free will is only truly made free through her participation in divine grace, you doing whatever you want isn't really freedom, actually. On consideration, which outlines an experiential, mystical meditation starting with our body to the world around us, the world within us, and eventually to the spiritual world itself. And his most powerful of all, his sermons on the Song of Songs, or the Song of Solomon, the greatest biblical love poem, is a series of over 80 sermons on the mystical union of the soul with the divine through love, sealed with a divine kiss. The kissed being the soul, the kisser being the divine, and the pure love, the kiss itself. Now, to be honest, there is just a whole bunch of episodes on really just introducing Bernard's mysticism, especially the progression of pride to humility, the way of contemplation and experiential meditation, the freeing of the will through grace, and finally, again, the experience of divine love through the mystical kiss. It's a tour de force as far as a mystical itinerary goes. Even his debates with the proto-scholastics are of such important, decisively important historical tact here, because they're one of the places where mysticism and philosophy begin to clearly drift apart in the Western intellect and the psyche. His debates with Abelard are absolutely decisive in showing how mysticism and philosophy, they begin to go their own separate paths in the 12th century. Though Bernard, to be clear, can never be accused of anti-intellectualism. His possession was simply that dialectic can only take us so far, and that only love, through grace, could take one, in the end, to union with the divine. That's a very fascinating position. Indeed, this position is perfectly captured in Dante's Divine Comedy. Recall that the pagan poet Virgil escorts Dante only so far, and then his earthly love, Beatrice, can only take him so much further still, while it was reserved that Bernard of Clairvaux, that Dante selected to escort him to the Mother of God before uniting him with the love that moves the sun and stars. If mysticism matters to you, Christian or not, Bernard is simply one of the most important, insightful, and profound mystics in world history, and absolutely worth a study. I'll be including some starter texts at the end of the episode if you want to get started really getting into Bernard of Clairvaux. Well worth your time if mysticism matters to you. However, in this episode, I want to talk about Bernard's mysticism, but specifically in the context of his co-founding, as it were, the Pauperes Communitalis Christi Templique Solomonici Hierosolymetanis, the poor fellow soldiers of Christ, and the Temple of Solomon. It's a bit of a mouthful, best known as the Knights Templar. Now, for what it's worth, if you want to get a background on the Knights Templar and you don't want ridiculous pseudo-history, Malcolm Barber's books are the absolute best on the Templars. His 2 books on them are incredible, and I would say they're the most historically reliable. If you want something a little bit more popular and approachable, Dan Jones's book is also well worth getting into. They're both fantastic introductions to the Templars. But in short, following the indiscriminate slaughter that we call the First Crusade, the areas under European occupation became unsafe for Christian pilgrims moving through that region. By unsafe, I mean that they were themselves subject to predation and banditry and large-scale massacres, sometimes massacres in the hundreds, because this region has never known and would never come to know anything like waves of foreign occupation and unending horrifying cycles of violence. However, some otherwise kind of, underemployed knights sleeping in their mom's basement at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, probably inspired by the Knights Hospitaller, who themselves, by the way, were providing medical care to those pilgrims. They decided to basically give physical protection for pilgrims in the region. Originally consisting of about 9 knights, including the cousin of Bernard of Clairvaux, Hugh of Pain, they appealed to King Baldwin II of Jerusalem and Watermund, the Patriarch of Jerusalem, to create a kind of semi-monastic, knightly protection racket. Holy Order. Yes, I mean Holy Order. Baldwin and Warmund basically assented, probably at the Council of Nablus in January of 1120, and the king allowed the nascent order to barrack, basically, at the now ruined but highly symbolic Al-Aqsa Mosque atop the Temple Mount. There was just one problem. Well, there's a lot of problems here, but one stood out. Monastic orders require vows of poverty, which they kind of already had going for them. Some of them were already pretty poor, but you can't exactly outfit an elite military unit with poverty. So they began the rally for both recognition of their order and especially fundraising. Those two go hand in hand, probably led by Hugh of Pain, began back in Europe in earnest. And Hugh was, frankly, rather successful in this regard. They began to accumulate lands back in Europe, probably because he understood the cool kid rule. You can spend all your time inviting everybody to come to your party, or you can just invite the cool kids, the 3 or 4 coolest kids that you know, and everybody will come because they want to be hanging out with the cool kids. The cool kid in this story, folks, is Bernard of Clairvaux. His recognition of the order would no doubt underwrite both its legitimacy, but it would also absolutely streamline fundraising. And it worked, though it did seem like Hugh had to bother his cousin Bernard about it a few times. Seems like Bernard doesn't really want to, he's a busy guy. But to understand this more fully, it's really important to realize that this was really not at all a natural fit. The Templars and violence in Christianity wasn't a good fit. Christianity, at least on paper, was a fundamentally pacifist religion. Jesus taught about loving your enemies, turning the cheek when struck, and he went willingly to his own death out of love for precisely those people torturing him and killing him. The willing blood of the martyrs was said to be the foundations of the very Catholic Church, and even the use of violence in self-defense was highly and carefully circumscribed by Augustine way back in the 5th century. Further, Christians had long disdained Germanic warrior culture. Even the books of Joshua and Judges weren't even fully translated into Gothic by Wofila because he didn't want to stoke what was already their warlike tendencies. This disdain continued into the Middle Ages, where the church both openly chided and ruled against various elements of knightly culture, including sporting and the frankly vicious warrior culture and hunting with birds. All of this, frankly, to no avail. The knights just kept on doing what they were doing, the church notwithstanding. The true knights of history were often little more than aristocratic thugs that predated upon everyone around them. They were the second and third sons of the aristocracy. They had nothing going for them. So they predated upon everyone, including peasants, the church, and even monasteries. However, the First Crusade ushered in a new, necessary understanding of the role of the knight and Christian violence more generally, by understanding traditionally offensive violence, which was, again, historically forbidden to Christians. You couldn't openly attack people, as a kind of, well, defensive action on both the part of the church, but also in defense of the honor of God. Just as Jesus had used violence with the whips to drive out the money changers from the temple, how much more appropriate would it be to use violence to drive the pagan Saracens from the Holy Land as a point of basically being the tip of the spear for spreading Christianity into the East? That's at least how it worked out in Gregory VII and Urban II's mind. But it also got those pesky knights who were like robbing your monasteries to go do their violence over there. Go over there and do violence rather than bothering peasants and spoiling churches and monasteries and generally engaging in European-wide hooliganism. And no one knew this more than Bernard of Clairvaux, because he came from a knightly family and became a monk in rejection of precisely that lifestyle and its ethos. So by Bernard's time, the concept of the holy warrior, which a century prior even would have been utterly paradoxical, even unthinkable, had all of a sudden become possible, even useful, and Bernard admits as much in his writings. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, Hugh seems to have written his cousin Bernard a few times trying to get him to legitimate this new Templar business. But eventually it does finally work, and Bernard, I think, realized the combination of spiritual and physical warfare was frankly a necessity of the context, but also, and I think even more to the point, potentially a way of reforming the very social institution of the knighthood itself, one that the church frankly otherwise loathed. And sometime between the founding of the order in 1120 and the death of Hugh in 1136, Bernard penned what is frankly one of the most interesting documents of his life, Liber ad milites templi de laude novae militae, a work praising the new order, justifying its use of violence, setting down its spiritual values, sharply criticizing secular knighthood, and preparing a kind of meditative and mystical pilgrimage through the Holy Land by which a Templar knight could elevate their soul to the divine when they weren't killing people. It's a kind of combination of spiritual and physical warfare, providing a contemplative mystical itinerary for knightly contemplation, and revolutionizing the place of violence at the very heart, in some sense, of Christianity. At times, it articulates a concept of interior and exterior struggle very much akin to the Islamic conception of jihad, but it also contains, frankly, straightforward mystical elements that evoke something like the Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi, and yet the text is composed like a tapestry of biblical verses meant for the mystical contemplative journey of the medieval Christian knight. In Defense of the New Knighthood is a work so extraordinary that it more than vexes me that rather than focusing on the actual mystical, spiritual, and historical foundations of the Templars, so much media and books is either just rubbish, made-up history, frankly, stupid conspiracy theories that all they care about is the Templars' military history. This is especially endemic in dude-tube history channels, which for them history is just military history, bro. Or rather just the dreadful end of the Templars as victims of their own financial success, frankly. The King of France, basically eluding his debts by using the Inquisition to kill his creditors for being gay and worshiping the devil. But it does vex me. It's just shocking that such an extraordinary text isn't more widely known and appreciated for its spiritual depth and historical importance. So what does Bernard's Liber ad milites templi de laude novae militate actually say in praise of the Templars? Well, I actually have a 18th century copy here, traditionally divided into 13 13 chapters. This will actually be in the Antiquarian Rare Book Catalog for this winter. But this is the actual text here. This is the prologue, followed by the 13 chapters of the In Praise of the New Knighthood, the text for Bernard wrote for the Templars. You can hear this nice old linen rag paper. It's not an extraordinarily long text. It's just really about 4 or 5 pages in this edition with these huge text in folio. But this is the actual text as you might find it in a very old 17th century copy, if it's not being washed out by the lights. But again, this is an old copy and well worth having if you're interested in the history of the Templars, or if you're just interested in, like, the history, for instance, of Freemasonry. But the text is a kind of epistle, both to Hugh and more generally to the Templars and the wider world. Just as knights brandish their swords in defense of pilgrims and God's honor, so too Bernard argues that he's going to brandish his pen, maybe the pen being mightier than the sword here, to support the new order, hence the new kind of knighthood as Bernard has it. It combines the best of spiritual and physical warfare.
So
Specifically,
Michelle,
it is
Paulina,
physical
and
warfare
Katie.
informed and inspired by purely spiritual concerns. Obviously now, murder is a sin, but even killing in self-defense for Bernard, merely out of selfishness, you just don't want to die, isn't inherently praiseworthy, hence why martyrdom is so desirable in Christianity. But this new kind of knight employs violence informed precisely by spiritual goodness as a form of defense both of pilgrims and the divine honor. Indeed, the Templar must charge into battle regardless of the chances of success, craving death more than life in the defense of the defenseless. This is a holy death, as Bernard has it. But the heart of the Templar must be completely pure. Killing done in the heat of anger or arrogance or rage forfeits the purity of the ruler, making them no different than a bandit or a worldly knight. The internal composition of the knight of this new Templar is fantastically important in Bernard's analysis, because if they kill people not in this pure state, they're just murderers. In fact, Bernard contrasts the worldly and the new knights. The worldly knight is characterized as, well, effeminate, with long locks of hair, clothing so elaborate that they get tangled up in it while fighting, caring more about elaborate pointy shoes than skill at combat. Their gold and jewels and silk, all of this is more the trinkets of a woman than the trappings of a warrior, as Bernard has it. And when they do kill, they're just murderers, doomed to hell, the price of their worldly glory. The Knight of Christ, however, is clad simply. The white tunics of the Templars are clearly taken from the white frocks of Bernard's Cistercians. And even the red cross that they become famous for, that's only added later. And even the black and white battle flags of the Knights Templar are there simply to mark out their simplicity. They are humble and silent, even in combat, something which, if true, must have made them all the more menacing. Just a silent, moving force of knights. And further, if the heart of the Templar is pure, they'll simply never strike out at any man, because they neither rage nor want nor desire glory, but they will strike out at evil itself. Thus, they are not killers of men, but they are killers of evil. They never commit homicide, according to Bernard, but malicide, the killing of evil. And thus, even if the Templar is struck down, even in the act of killing, he won't die. He'll simply immediately go to his heavenly home. While Bernard contends that violence is a last resort, he seems to think, at this point at least, that the time of the last resort has come. However, such violence is only temporary for Bernard, such that when the land is pacified of all these evildoers and pagans and Saracens, the warrior knights will retire to the purely scholastic, spiritual warfare, which for Bernard is the highest form of warfare imaginable. So how must the Templar ensure that his sacred killing is in fact sacred? Aside from having gone with the correct intention going into and engaging in combat, he must also lead a completely sacred life, far more akin to a monk than to a warrior of the day. No fancy clothes or horses, no wives or children, Celibacy is the expectation for the knights for Bernard, even with sleeping with the light on when they travel together and have to sleep in the same room so they don't get too cozy. Templar cozy. They have simple rations, their hair is cropped short, they do not engage in hunting, dice, or chess, rather they spend their free time simply repairing arms and armor. They don't keep the company of singers or jugglers or troubadours. Their weapons are made simple and effective, they're not decorated, and they rely on God to preserve them when they charge into battle, not to win, but to do good. They're not there to defeat the enemy, they're there to be righteous. Faith, not deceptive tactics and strategy, mark out the Templars, who are to be gentler than lambs, yet fiercer than lions. Their quarters in the Temple of Jerusalem are made to be far more spiritually sublime than the previous material glory of the Israelite temple, bedecked with cedar and gold. It is precisely the poverty of the Templars that makes the temple spiritually wealthy. Rather, the monastic simplicity of their temple barracks marks it out as uniquely holy. Indeed, they are to follow in the footsteps of Jesus, who drove out the money changers from the temple. Now these warrior monks drive out the Saracen pagans. The Israelite temple stripped of gold and jewels for the crucified Son of Man, the Saracen mosque stripped bare, transformed into a monastery of righteous poverty and the training grounds for the destruction of the pagans, the defense of Christian pilgrims, and the spread of the Gospels is, for Bernard, the truest and most worthy revenge for Christ. Not that I really imagine Jesus being much in the revenge game. What follows at this point in the text is a positively fascinating shift in Bernard's thinking.
Revenge or
With
justice?
the justification,
Jesus is in the
praise,
justice
spiritual, and
game,
practical direction of the Templars
not
set,
revenge.
Bernard now pens a kind of mystical journey of the Holy Land that functions something like a meditation guide for the Templar Knight based on Bernard's own mystical experiences. This is taking Bernard's mysticism and then transposing it onto, well, the Templar life. In other words, the text uses the geography of the medieval Crusader states with those of the same locations in the biblical narrative as they appeared in the life of Jesus as a kind of mystical journey of the Templar soul through profound humbling to spiritual union with the divine. This is interesting because Bernard himself actually chided monks from making pilgrimage to the Holy Land. For him, they should just stay inside their monasteries and do the real work, the real spiritual work, well, within those walls. And he himself never visited the very places that he writes of. He's taking it all from the biblical literature. But again, for him, it's a mystical interior journey designed for the Templar. But I do suspect that these sections could easily be read aloud or studied or contemplated by a knight as they actually visited these various places during their duties in the Holy Land. Thus, the text functioned at least two levels, all the while truly showcasing Bernard's mysticism as it became tuned for these new warrior monks. Bernard's mystical journey flows from Bethlehem to Nazareth to the Mount of Olives, but up through the Valley of Jehoshaphat, over to the Jordan River, back to Mount Calvary, and then to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, before ending at Bethphage and Bethany, all of which are imbued with spiritual significance taken from the life of Jesus in Scripture. The journey begins, logically, with the birthplace of Jesus, Bethlehem, Beit Lechem, the house of bread, where the Word became flesh, the house of bread becoming the house of life for all peoples, spiritually feeding all those in the world, for Bernard. Thus, the knight need not worry about material food. His rations are simple, because he is spiritually fed on the bread of the true life. There we go over to Nazareth, where the infant Jesus grows into maturity, such that the Templar should grow mature as well, as a knight beyond worldly concerns typically associated with the knighthood. They need to grow out of being a baby knight into being a mature knight. Their combat with the Saracens a mere surface for their real internal spiritual maturity, which secures them salvation as glory rather than worldly honors. However, looking from their monastic temple, they can see over at the Mount of Olives. But before going over there, they have to descend They must humble themselves and descend through the valley of Josaphat before ascending up to the Mount of Olives, by abandoning their individual vain pride, the most typical trait of a knight at this time, in the valley of humility. Only then can they ascend to the mountain of righteousness and to resurrection. Purified, they take themselves through the desert to the Jordan River for baptism, where they would be washed of their worldly connections and sins. They would be purified, now truly a knight of the new kind. Returning to Jerusalem, they summit Mount Calvary, where Christ conquered death itself, such that they themselves no longer need to fear death, but they can rush headlong into it to awaken to eternal life through their military and spiritual service. There, the warrior pilgrim meditates upon the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where the bulk of Bernard's treatise dwells, as a kind of preparation for the righteous and holy death. Here, the treatise presents Bernard's entire mystical theology, anthropology, soteriology, and ecclesiology, all on display in a very short, compact form as a kind of tour de force of mystical pedagogy. It's like a short version of Bernard's whole mysticism. The Templars are made out to be something like living martyrs, existing between life and death, just as Jesus had died for 3 days, yet was bursting forth with eternal life. So too the dead Jesus had descended into hell to do battle with the devil to free those souls captured there. So too the Templar will die to the world and physically die to protect the living for their spiritual redemption and the redemption of others. The worldly knight is doomed to die twice, first a physical death, but then also a spiritual one, doomed to hell for their wretched bandit lives. However, the Templar, already dead in Christ, will merely pass through a physical transition, destined to live eternally with God. The Holy Sepulchre is apt to capture these liminal spaces between so many paradoxes for the existence of the Templar, monk, warrior, living, dead. Finally, the mystical itinerary takes the warriors to Bethphage and to Bethany. Bethphage represents absolute faith in Christ. The apostles were told to go there purely in faith to obtain the very colt that Jesus would ride into Jerusalem. And finally to Bethany, where Jesus brought Lazarus back from the dead, just as Christ would do for all of the righteous, especially the knights of Christ, the knights of Christ, and the great final military triumph, the military triumph of all triumphs, Christ's defeat of death and the Templars' defeat of death through their own holy death. Hugh's pressing Bernard to write in support of the Templars was prescient and certainly wise. It was also effective. Innocent II would throw his support behind the Templars in his Omne Datum Optimum of 1139, using language very similar to that Bernard
Alright,
used,
what time are the girls home
based on
here?
his text. And thus what had begun with a couple of
CJ
handfuls
just
of
doing a little research
knights
here,
errant
that's
was
all.
destined to
Don't
become
hold
not
it
only
against
one of the
me.
most elite military fighting forces of the medieval world,
What
but also
time's
some of the
Katie?
most grand architects, and honestly, the first true international banking institution of the
He
Latin
likes
West.
diners.
That fact eventually dooming the order in the early 14th century. If you don't want to pay your debts, just kill your creditors. However, despite so much lore and misinformation attached to the Templars, it's just often forgotten or ignored that their very founding was very much wrapped up in the great mystical reforms of that period, and that Bernard of Clairvaux, in praise of the new knighthood, is a fascinating, amazingly interesting glimpse into the intersection of military reforms of the knighthood as a social institution and monastic mystical contemplation. Now, to be sure, it is a militant mysticism of profound religious intolerance, and that might just offend our contemporary values. But our task is to study the past and to
First
learn
car
from it,
was a
not to
perennial,
clutch
huh?
our pearls and get offended and try to cancel history. That's just willful stupidity pretending to be values, all the while preventing us from learning from the mistakes of the past, but also appreciating the real spiritual genius at work in these texts, even if we disagree with them. Do you think I'm on Team Templar? If you want to get acquainted with Bernard of Clairvaux's mystical thinking, there's absolutely no better place than the volume of his selected works in the Classics of Western Spirituality series. I have a whole shelf of them right there. They're all worth getting. This edition, while it only represents about 10% of Bernard's works, remember he wrote about 3,500 pages, is wonderfully organized to take you on the very mystical journey Bernard went upon and advises others to do as well. It is masterfully edited with a fantastic introduction. I think the introduction alone is like a fourth of the book. Also, the chapter about Bernard in the second volume of Bernard McGinn's monumental history of Christian mysticism in the West, or the history of Western Christian mysticism, is also just a sublime read, the whole thing, but the section on Bernard is especially good. But to be sure, that's no substitute for reading the actual primary sources. You should try to do that. Try to do it in Latin. Bernard's also just a fantastic Latinist. Now, I've mentioned a couple of histories of the Templars in the video, so you can check those out as well. Now, if you want to study the Liber ad Milites Templi de Laude Novae Militate, on the new knighthood, I'd suggest getting an appreciation of Bernard's mysticism in the classics text first, really understanding Bernard a little better. But after that, the best text is In Praise of the New Knighthood by the Cistercian Publications, spotting a fantastic translation by Conrad Grenia and notes
Am I not reading
a
this one
helpful
correctly?
introduction
Yeah,
by Malcolm Barber, one of the best
on a
medievalists
farm.
of our day. Now, I doubt that I'm done with Bernard of Clairvaux and his contemplative mysticism of love, so I'm sure
I
I'm
haven't
going to be
dated her
coming
much,
back to revisit his incredibly important and spiritually illuminating works. Even for me, as a person who's certainly not a Christian, they are still amazing works of mysticism and well worth studying and contemplating. Until next time, thank you for watching Esoterica, where we explore the arcane in history, philosophy, and religion.
It's 123. What two Helena would be there? No, it should be gone.
8 digits, 8 shots. Could crack a safe. Could mark a date.
Michelle's
Only one
home,
way to know.
right?
Find the numbers
Michelle's
before
home?
they find me.
We'll see. Oh, I should have got the saber. It drives better.
I'm out here building a future. Get rid of the shoes. Well, well. Guess that just made my day.
The major individual in the Bible who was a Hellenized Jew in the Roman Empire is named Paul. And he is credited with most of the writing of the New Testament. About a third of the New Testament, which is the Christian Bible, either is written by Paul or it's about Paul. So that's why we believe that not Jesus, but Paul is the real founder of Christianity. Okay? Christianity, again, is not by Jesus. It's not a religion by Jesus. It's a religion about Jesus. And there's a difference. There are a lot of questions in the story of Paul that don't make any sense. Okay? The first thing that doesn't make sense is like, who is this guy? Right? He has all this power and money, and he can do whatever he wants. And no one can touch him. All right? So that's the first big question. The second question is, why does he convert? Right? His conversion story doesn't make any sense. We're like, okay, well, because he saw Jesus. Okay, that's fine. But guess what, guys?
2 o'clock.
After Jesus talks to him, Jesus sort of disappears from the story. And you would think that if Jesus was so important to Paul, Paul would quote from Jesus, right? But he doesn't quote from Jesus. Jesus has a lot of message, a lot of sayings, but Paul rarely quotes from him. Okay? But not only that, we already said that the message of Jesus and the message of Paul are very different. Jesus believed the kingdom of God was within us. Through our generosity, through our mercy, we can achieve salvation. Paul taught everyone it's believing Jesus that will allow you to achieve salvation. And only believe in Jesus. You can do as much good as you want, but if you don't believe in Jesus, you'll be damned to hell. So all those Buddhists, all those Hindus, all those Zoroastrians who are doing good in the world, too bad. They will be burned in hell. And that goes against a lot of the teaching of Jesus. Okay? So he did convert, but he's not spreading the gospel of Jesus. All right? All right.
Early.
Another question then is, why is he focusing on
you can make San Piero that
organization?
Quickly.
Okay? Why is he focusing on organization?
We might be able to do it.
The heart of religion is spiritual truth.
We can't get around right
but
there.
Paul doesn't really care about that. He cares about the organization, the church, who's in charge,
Go this way.
how many members
we're
attracting, how we can appeal to them more, how to resolve local disputes within the church. That's what he cares about.
Let's find out.
Odd. Okay? And then the last question then is, why does he get in trouble with the Jews? And what did the Romans say to him? Okay? So these are questions. Now, let's first go over the Christian explanation. And the Christian explanation is, Paul was part of the divine plan. Okay? So Jesus brought truth into the world, right? The truth of Jesus, that's what Jesus teaches. But it was Paul who created the structure and the organization that allowed Christianity to spread. Okay? So, an analogy or a comparison is a sort of McDonald's. You guys all know McDonald's, right? Well, guess what? In the 1950s, McDonald's was one restaurant in California. It had amazing hamburgers. And it really had the best hamburgers. And a man named Ray Kroc visited this restaurant. And it was being run by the McDonald brothers. That's why it's called McDonald's, okay? And Ray Kroc says to the brothers, you know what? You guys have an amazing restaurant. Let me scale it out. Let me convince others to open McDonald's around America and the world. This is called the franchise model. Okay? Franchise model. The franchise model. And so the brother said, yeah, sure. And what Ray Kroc did was he drove everywhere, like Paul. And he had these meetings, like Paul, where he convinced people of the American dream, like Paul. Ray Kroc said to everyone, if you open McDonald's, you will get rich and you will live the American dream. Right? Paul said to everyone, you believe in Jesus, you will achieve salvation. And because Ray Kroc was such an amazing salesperson, McDonald's eventually became the largest restaurant empire in the world, right? Same thing with Paul. Because Paul was such a convincing salesman, Christianity became the most dominant religion in the world. So this is all part of God's plan, okay? It's very similar to the story of McDonald's. Here's the problem, guys. Jesus was not selling hamburgers. In fact, Jesus hated hamburgers, right? The central message of Jesus is wealth is wrong. Business is wrong. Hierarchy is wrong. What matters is the spiritual truth in your heart. All right? So,
might make it.
even though this is a Christian belief that both are part of the divine plan. And Paul was doing, Paul was basically Jesus' business manager, okay? Problem is, Jesus didn't want a business manager. And Jesus believed that it was our own individual responsibility to discover our own truths through him. Okay? So, what are some other explanations for Paul? Okay, all right. So, I mean, the most basic answer for people who hate Paul is he was just an opportunist, a charlatan.
Food, CJ, now.
All right. Okay. He saw a business opportunity. Everyone loved Jesus. Jesus had gone viral, right? He had gone viral, and he was a meme now around the world, and so he wanted to take advantage of that. He wanted to monetize that. The problem with this is,
For sure.
he worked really hard, man. He traveled all around the Roman Empire to spread the message. He was fanatical about it, okay? And opportunists are not fanatical. They're kind of lazy. So I don't really buy this idea that there's opportunities. He really believed in what he was doing. He was driven by a sense of mission. Okay? And also, guys, remember, if he's a Roman citizen and his parents are Roman citizens, then he's probably wealthy himself. He doesn't really need this money. Also, what's important for us to understand is Paul comes from a very well-educated background. He's very wealthy. He speaks Greek. He writes Greek beautifully. He's constantly educated. He doesn't want to deal with James the Just, who is not well-educated. Right? He doesn't want to deal with these people. So why is he dealing with these people? Right? So I don't really buy this explanation. Another explanation is secret conspiracy. The idea here is Paul and maybe many who supported him hated the Roman Empire. And they believed Christianity would be a weapon that would eventually destroy the Roman Empire, which is what happened historically. That's 340 years in the future. How did Paul know that? And also, what does Paul have against the Roman Empire? Really, right? He's beneficiary of the Roman Empire. He's wealthy, his parents are wealthy, right? So, another explanation, which, by the way, I've never heard before, but which I do believe, right? So take this with a grain of salt, but I believe
CJ, I am
he was a spy for the Roman Empire. All right?
CJ, you're a dream date.
Okay. He's a spy. Okay, so let me explain the idea here. What is he doing? And, all right. So the Jews have always been a problem for empires, both the Greek Empire and the Roman Empire. Why? Because the Greeks and the Romans are pagans. They celebrate pagan gods. But the Jews believe that their God is the only God, and every other God is false.
This is so interesting.
And so they refuse the authority of the empire. This has led to many wars, okay? From 167 to 160 BCE, there's something called the Maccabean Revolt against the Seleucid Empire. They lasted 7 years, killed a lot of people, okay? And then there'll be the Romans and the Jews will fight 3 major wars.
My first
From
car was a perennial.
66 to 73 CE, and this is around the time of Paul. The first war will be fought. The Romans will burn the temple down and ban all Jews from Jerusalem. And the Romans think through this aggression, the Jews will be cowed. They'll be scared, right? No. It makes them even more angry, so that 2 more wars are fought from 115 to 117, and then the third war will be from 132 to 136. Okay? So the Jews are fanatical.
For something hot and wet.
That's what gives the Jews power. They're a poor province of the Roman Empire.
No problem.
But they're fanatical. And guess what? Romans respect fanaticism. Okay, remember, 216 BCE. Hannibal invades Italy and he destroys all the Roman armies again, who are against him. In the Battle of Cannae, he has killed at least 20% of the Roman adult male population and a third of the Senate. And at this point, the Romans should have surrendered and talked peace, right? But the Romans are fanatical. They refuse to surrender, and eventually they're able to destroy Carthage. Okay? So now the Romans see the Jews, who again, it's a poor, small province in the Roman Empire, and they continue to rebel. So this fanaticism of the Jews, it both scares and it awes the Romans. Okay? They understand, the Romans above all understand how powerful fanaticism is. Fanaticism is the ultimate weapon. It cannot be defeated. And because there's a diaspora, a Jewish diaspora, it can never be rooted out. Okay? You can destroy Jerusalem, which is what they did, but there are Jews all around the world. So you can never destroy this fanaticism. And because of the long history of the Jews, this fanaticism only grows through persecution and through suffering. Okay? So you have to somehow destroy this fanaticism if you are to win this war against the Jews. And there are three central beliefs underlying this Jewish fanaticism. All right? The first is the idea of purity. Why is it that if the Jews are God's chosen people, they're always being pushed around by these larger empires like the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Persians, the Greeks, and the Romans? And the answer is because we Jews have not been pure enough. We have not been loyal enough to Yahweh. So it is only through purity that will allow us to eventually triumph over our enemies. Okay? Otherwise, we will continue to be bullied by others. Second is the idea of persecution complex. The persecution complex. The entire world is against us because we are God's chosen people. And therefore, we must stand united and stay pure. Who the Jews really hated were the Jews who assimilated, like Paul. Right? They hated these people because they were traitors to the nation of Israel. Right? Second belief. And then there's a third belief, which is the coming of the Messiah. Don't worry about today, okay? This pain, this suffering, this persecution, it's all part of the divine plan. It's testing us. It is making us strong. Eventually, the Messiah, the anointed one, will come from heaven and lead us into a final battle against all our enemies, the Roman Empire, and we will destroy them. And then we will establish the nation of God, the kingdom of heaven on earth. Okay? And so these are the three major beliefs that underpin Jewish fanaticism, and it makes the Jews almost invincible because it makes them fearless. They're not afraid to die. Dying is part of the divine plan. Suffering is all part of the process of achieving the kingdom of heaven on earth. It's a responsibility to die for the faith. Okay? All right. So now that we understand this Jewish fanaticism, we can now understand why Paul is doing what he's doing, right? Think about this. Purity means absolute obedience to the law of Moses, right? But what Paul's saying is, no, guys, circumcision.
What the heck, boys? Wow.
Circumcision is we don't have to enforce circumcision because we want more non-Jews into our religion. Okay? Why is circumcision such a big deal? Well, because circumcision is basically what separates the Jews into a different group of people in any community. Why? Because in most cities, there's a place called gymnasium. Gymnasium is really the heart and center of life in the community. It's where men go to do sports and athletics.
Come on, dudes.
And run. Okay. The thing about the gymnasium is everyone goes in naked, right? And why is this a problem? Because if you're Jewish, people know right away you're Jewish. Therefore, it's hard for you to go into the gymnasium because you'll be ridiculed by the Greeks. Therefore, there's no way for the Jews to associate with the Greeks and other people. Okay? Does that make sense? That's why circumcision is so important. Once you say to the Jewish people, you don't need to be circumcised. You just have to have faith in Jesus. And it's easier for them to assimilate into the larger culture around them. Right? Persecution complex. Jews are being persecuted. Why? Because they're not Roman citizens. Right? Let's go back to the story of Jesus. Why did he get persecuted? Why did he die? Because he was not a Roman citizen. If he were a Roman citizen, then Pontius Pilate would have protected him from the Jews who wanted to kill him. Just like how the Roman soldiers protected Paul from those Jews who wanted to kill him.
I want to get some food inside me.
No problem if that's what
So
you want.
guys, focus on being a Roman citizen, and you can believe anything you want. You will no longer be persecuted. You'll be part of the Roman Empire, right? And the last thing is the coming of the Messiah, right? Jews believe the Messiah is going to come and lead them into final victory against all their enemies, especially the Roman Empire. But what Paul is saying is this: the Messiah has already come. He's Jesus, and Jesus taught a message of eternal salvation. Internal salvation, to recognize the evil within you and to become a better person. So if you want to be saved, you must believe that we are born evil and Jesus has come to cleanse us of our evil. Jesus was a prophet of peace.
Carl, you know,
He had nothing against the Roman Empire. He was fighting against evil in the world. Okay?
This place is
So,
fantastic.
if these three things are true, then fanaticism will be destroyed. Now, obviously, if you're a fanatic, you don't believe any of this crap, okay? But Paul's message was not for fanatical Jews. They were still a minority. His message were for diaspora Jews like him who were stuck between the Roman Empire and the Jewish faith.
What
They were part of
the?
the Jewish diaspora. Maybe their fathers were Greek and their mothers were Jewish, okay? And these are a lot of people. So Paul's message was for these people. You can still be Jewish if you believe in Jesus. And once you believe in Jesus, then you can now assimilate into the Roman Empire.
Not bad, Carl.
And this
You
will
got
free
style.
you to believe whatever you want.
That was great. You better take me home, though.
It's killing me to let you go.
So this is Paul's mission. Now, then the question then is, why is Paul doing this? Why would Paul do this? And I think the answer is this. I don't want to say Paul is an opportunist or he's evil. I believe he was also a believer in his mission. His mission was what? To save his people. If you want to continue to live with the Roman Empire, you have to adapt yourself. You have to make compromises. You can't wait for the Messiah to come save you. You have to save yourself by adapting to the Roman Empire. And look, there are lots of advantages to the Roman Empire. You can become very happy and prosperous if you play by the rules of the Roman Empire, like he did. Okay? So in many ways, what's odd about Paul is he teaches us that Jesus is the Messiah, but in his heart, and you can tell by his writings, he himself believes he's really the Messiah who has come to save his people. And that's why he's so fanatical about building the church of Christianity. The church that will eventually become Christianity, okay? Again, at this point in history, they're not Christians. They're still Jews. Okay?
All right, let's have us some coffee.
But there will be a lot of consequences because Paul is doing this. He radically changes the meaning of faith and religion. All right? Because, again, the story of Jesus doesn't really make any sense. And his story doesn't make any sense either. Okay, he's lying about who he is. So he creates a new concept. And he radically changes the concept of faith, okay? Before, faith is what you experience. Now faith is something that you must believe. Right? He introduces the idea of miracles now. If something can be explained, it's because it's a miracle. All right? And this is a new idea that didn't exist before. And the use of miracles is to explain the contradictions or the inconsistencies in the story of the Bible. Okay? So that's one major revolution of Paul's teachings. Another is the idea of tradition. Tradition is more important than the Bible. Okay? So the story's interpretation of the Bible is now more important than the Bible itself. And Paul's church will eventually become the Catholic Church. And one thing about the Catholic Church is you are not allowed to read the Bible. The Bible is sacred, it's forbidden.
What the fuck are you talking about? Okay,
because
Professor.
the fear is, if you read the Bible, you might misinterpret the Word of God. Okay? You don't have the spiritual power in order to fully interpret the Bible properly. Okay? All right? Okay, so there are lots of major changes to the idea of religion because of Paul's work. All right. So that is my central argument about Paul.
You know the words, you can read the sentences, but the language is so wanky and highfalutin. You're just like, what the fuck are you even talking about? I kinda expected that from this, The Conspiracy of Art by Jean Baudrillard. I mean, it's about art. He's French.
I'm French! Why do you think I have this outrageous accent?
And I was right. Sort of. What's interesting is that a lot of the wanky language in it doesn't come from Baudrillard himself, but rather the people he is speaking with. Hi, I'm Sho. I talk about books and their authors and related stuff, and I promise you, I only sometimes sound like a wankhead, unlike the people in this book. They ask these incredibly dense questions. They're like trying so hard to sound smart, but Baudrillard just takes them at face value, and actually it's quite funny, but that's not the point. I'll openly admit I still don't have the language to get this book. I left a lot of meaning behind. But on an intuitive level, on a gut level, it made terrifying sense. Jean Baudrillard is a French philosopher, a cultural critic, a professional provocateur. He is the intellectual godfather behind The Matrix. And he came up with mind-bending terms like hyperreality and simulacra. It's also important to note that this book is not a singular linear argument. It is a collection of essays and interviews and fragments collected over several years, several decades, really. And the format is key because it feels less like a formal thesis and more like you are listening in on a series of brilliant, often contradictory, very provocative conversations. Baudrillard's whole project, in a nutshell, was to look at the whole world and ask, is any of this even real anymore? Baudrillard's big, controversial idea is this: art, as we know it, is dead. He argues that for centuries, art had a special, almost magical power. It could be revolutionary, it could be transcendental, it could be a critical mirror held up to society. But now, all of that is over because art has been completely taken over by the market. It is no longer special. And by the way, he was saying this way back in the 70s. So so he is prescient, to say the least. He is saying that art has just become another high-end commodity, like a fucking Piaget or a Birkin bag. And the conspiracy is this. Everyone in the art world, the artists, the critics, the museums, the galleries, even us to some extent, everyone is complicit in a kind of open secret. And you kind of get that, right? Baudrillard argues that they are all participating in an elaborate inside joke. They're all pretending that what they're doing is profoundly meaningful, when all it is that they are just trading and laundering empty, meaningless, self-referential objects for millions of dollars. Art has, in other words, stopped making meaning of the world and just started making value for itself. Reading it, it was pretty clear that I don't have the specific vocabulary to get this book. I can't opine on aesthetic banality or trans-aesthetic nullity. A lot of the academic language went straight over my head. So why did I keep reading it? Well, two reasons. The first one, now that I've read it, I have a mental map of the territory. I know what the book is about in general, so if I do decide to come back to it later on, I can come back prepared and forewarned. If you want a full rant on why you should always finish a book, make below. Secondly, I honestly believe that even if you didn't fully comprehend the book, something of the book you absorb. It's like an ineffable quality, a vibe, like the flavor of it seeps in. And the unique flavor of this book, well, any book really, is always worth experiencing. But like I said in my intro, on a gut level, this book just made sense. And I'm sure you feel it too already. You're standing in a gallery in front of a big white canvas with a small red dot on it, and there's like this long fucking blurb about this painting, and you're like, is this it? Is this some kind of joke? It's just a red dot. Am I the only one that doesn't get this? Baudrillard's work is a powerful validation of that feeling, and his answer is yes, it is a joke.
Gee, I hope I didn't scare the cows. I don't want to put them in a bad mood.
In fact, it's not just a joke, it's a conspiracy. His book explains why when you look at that dumb red dot on the big white canvas, you feel nothing. And that's because that dumb red dot on the white canvas is empty of meaning. Jean Baudrillard's Conspiracy of Art is not a straightforward piece of art criticism. Actually, let's be fair, even if it were, I wouldn't. I found it more like a philosophical toolkit for understanding our absurd modern world. Because let's face it, that fakeness, that emptiness, well, it's just everywhere now, isn't it? Honestly, I found this book quite liberating because it gave me permission again to trust my intuition whenever I see a labubu in the world and wretch. Baudrillard doesn't give you the secret password to join the exclusive club of the art world. He just reassures you that that club is total BS to begin with.
Make sure to subscribe.
Yeah, Xbox is so screwed, y'all. Over the last few months, we've been seeing Xbox increase prices across the board. In part, it has to do with the current economic situation, but in another part, it has to do with what's going on within Microsoft and Xbox itself. We've seen consoles be raised in price twice over the last few months. We've seen Game Pass be pushed to the limits with its price point, to the point where people don't find the value in it as much as they used to. Now, $30 a month or $360 a year, and that's just in the US, where there was a 50% price hike, whereas in regions like Brazil, there was a 100% price hike, double the price. And then there's all the mass layoffs, the studio shutdowns, the project cancellations. All of this can be traced to one source, and that is the Eye of Sauron, Microsoft. Once upon a time, Xbox was just a counting error. They were not enough of a financial money sink for Microsoft to really interfere with Xbox. They just kind of let Xbox do whatever they want. That all changed when Xbox purchased ZeniMax for $7.5 billion and Activision Blizzard for $69 billion. Microsoft put on the ring, and the Eye of Sauron directly looked at them and analyzed everything they were doing. And Microsoft wants profit. They want the investment that Xbox put into purchasing all these game studios to yield money that puts them in the green. And we all knew this. We knew that Xbox's autonomy going away as a result of Microsoft's interference is a big reason for why we've been seeing Xbox stumble into one rake after another. But now we got more specific details courtesy of Jason Schreier and Dina Bass, who released the following article published on October 23rd, 2025, titled Microsoft Pushes Xbox Division to Hit Higher Profit Margins. Now, profit margins are a thing with any corporation, but the profit margins that are expected from Xbox on the part of Microsoft are well outside the realm of traditional profit margins in the games industry. According to sources that Bloomberg spoke to, Microsoft has set an across-the-board goal of 30% accountability margins, is what they call it, a term Microsoft uses in lieu of profit margins, which is an insane ask when you consider that the average profit margin in the games industry is between 17 and 22%. It'd be one thing if Xbox was continuing to ride the Xbox 360 era wave where they were like on top of their game, but currently Xbox is arguably in the worst state that I've ever seen this platform. It is so far behind PlayStation and Nintendo in terms of market dominance in the console space that a 30% profit margin in the worst state Xbox has ever been is a ridiculous ask. Even analysts are shocked by this revelation, with Neil Barbour, an analyst with S&P Global, noting that a 30% or better margin is usually reserved for a publisher that is really nailing it, which Xbox categorically is not. As for who's responsible for this new profit margin, well, apparently it was implemented back in fall of 2023 by Microsoft's Chief Financial Officer, Amy Hood, whose team has taken a larger role in the gaming business in recent years. Amy Hood is essentially Microsoft's plant and mole and agent within Xbox, who dictates much of Xbox's direction, given that Amy Hood is there to ensure that Xbox as a business, especially after the billions of dollars in recent expenditures, is able to make some kind of profit, and that becomes a priority rather than, long-term nurturing and fostering to ensure that they're shipping really good products with which then they can make profit later on. Amy Hood is very much about ensuring those short-term profits that will make investors happy over the course of quarterly investor meetings and financial reports. That is a priority of a corporation like Microsoft. And when you look at the timeline of things, the implementation of this new profit margin by Amy Hood in fall of 2023, suddenly the course of events over the last couple months and years make a whole lot more sense. It makes sense why a lot of Xbox executives' promises suddenly fell through. That was the initial intent, to execute on those promises, but priorities changed because Microsoft forced those changes, and now Xbox is in a position where they have to take measures that go against their previous word. So, for example, we've seen them state that Xbox-developed first-party games will remain exclusive to Xbox. We've seen that change so that Xbox-developed titles are now going to start coming out on PlayStation and Nintendo consoles as well, on competing platforms, because there's a lot of money to be made by releasing Xbox games on as many platforms as possible, instead of making it exclusive to a platform and family of consoles that is way behind the competition. It makes sense why Xbox in the past said that they're all about fostering these smaller studios and ensuring that they have all the breathing room to make the best game possible and making that the priority, and why that suddenly shifted to shutting down a lot of those studios that are not producing the profits that Microsoft wants in the short term. It makes sense why studios like Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks were shut down despite producing some of the most critically acclaimed games that Xbox have ever released, simply because while those games are very good, they weren't generating the kind of revenue that Microsoft wants Xbox to generate in lieu of their massive recent expenditures. I think Xbox really shot itself in the foot by going on this mass acquisition, mass expenditure spree that has forced Microsoft to intervene, or that would naturally lead to the corporate head, to the Eye of Sauron, looking right their way. That's what's led to the current environment, whereas in the past, game makers at Xbox weren't asked to hit specific numerical targets. Instead, they were largely told to focus on making the best games possible without worrying too much about finances. That was the initial mandate, and that has now shifted since Microsoft's interference following the purchase of ZeniMax and especially Activision Blizzard. That initial mandate is what leads to long-term success. Microsoft instead is trying to rush into being as successful as Nintendo and PlayStation when it comes to producing high-quality titles that sell extremely well, even if they are exclusives. But you got to nurture that, and Microsoft is trying to skip the nurture step because they're seeing the short-term profits as the priority. And what that 30% profit margin means is that there are going to be more cuts, more project cancellations, more layoffs, because that's the only way to ensure that that profit margin is achieved or somewhere close to that. Xbox isn't generating enough money through its hardware sales, through its Game Pass subscriptions, through its various business models. And so since they can't reach those ridiculous new profit margins through revenue alone, they have to cut costs. That's why we've seen the cancellation of numerous costly projects such as Everwild, Perfect Dark, and Project Blackbird, which was going to be the new ZeniMax MMO, sci-fi MMO that they were making to be the successor to Elder Scrolls Online. These are all projects that have been in development for more than 7 years. Some were troubled and whatnot, but they showed promise and potential. But because Microsoft wanted a 30% margin, these were risks that Xbox simply could not take. As Bloomberg aptly put it here, games that are either cheap to make or deemed more likely to generate significant revenue windfalls may take priority over riskier bets. Xbox's floundering hardware division may also face a significant rethinking. So yeah, Xbox, instead of being a creative powerhouse, are ultimately end up pursuing the most generic trend-chasing projects because of that mandate of a 30% profit margin that forces Xbox to think generically and not riskily, but it's those risks that yield some of the best results. It's risks that are taken that are outside of market research that yield some of the best successes because people are getting something new, something that sets a new bar rather than revisiting familiar grounds and seeing companies try to pursue those same trends that have already been established by other bigger games. It's risk that creates unique experiences that allows you to be the first to something, and that's going to be what's going to make people gravitate towards that unique thing and make it a massive success. This kind of corporate interference is what kills the creative spirit and the identity of game studios and of a game company division. We've seen this happen with the likes of Blizzard. Once upon a time, Blizzard was incredibly autonomous, and then the Activision purchase happened, and the more Activision interfered on a corporate level, the more we saw Blizzard's creativity kind of be chipped away at to the point where we just don't recognize them anymore. You can just feel the shift in Blizzard where their output of projects, it's just nowhere near what it used to be when it comes to the amount of projects that they would release and how creative each one of them were and how they all kind of push the boundaries. Xbox had the potential to ensure that all their recent purchases could be given the freedom to really create some of the most creative, unique projects out there, but creativity and uniqueness are risky. And so that's an area that Microsoft wants Xbox to steer away from and instead go for cheaper games or for stuff that is, recurrently monetizable or that can guarantee some kind of major revenue source, because they have to compensate for the dozens of billions of dollars that were spent in the purchase of Activision Blizzard and ZeniMax by mandating profit margins that are well beyond the norm for the games industry. And in doing so, it feels like it's just going to lead to Xbox imploding because they'll have to keep cutting costs because their revenue potential currently just cannot match that 30% profit margin. And so by imposing that 30% profit margin on Xbox, Microsoft is fucking over Xbox big time in the long term. It's going to destroy Xbox in the long term. Or at the very least, destroy their identity enough that we just won't recognize them in the way that we once used to, especially during those like Xbox 360 golden times. They're going to become a more generic game publisher that releases annualized franchises and that pursues all of the more generic trend-chasing things that a lot of AAA publishers tend to pursue, which is the last thing that I want Microsoft and Xbox to become. I want them to be creative powerhouses in the way that Nintendo and PlayStation are and offer genuine competition, because that forces everyone to make better products, and as a result, we all win. The worst thing a parent company can do to a game division is to impose unreasonable profit margins, because that means having to scoop out the soul of the company to cut costs short term to make short-term profits. But in the long term, eventually that game division will be a husk that can't make the creative powerhouse games that they once were able to do, that cannot push out the quality that they once used to, because so much of the identity within itself has been scooped out and completely eradicated. And that's where Microsoft is headed, especially with recent hints of what Xbox's next-gen plans will look like, with Sarabon having said that the RG Xbox Ally X handheld is an indication of what they want to pursue, which is, a premium, high-end, curated device. And that's all she said. But what she's basically hinting at is that the next-gen Xbox console could very well be a PC console hybrid. And we have seen reports of this before Sarah Bond even put out that statement. And so there's validity there that might be where Xbox is headed. And that also means that Xbox's next-gen hardware will be significantly more expensive than, say, the competition like the PlayStation 6, because it is going to be a PC that has other functionalities beyond just gaming, whereas PS6 will optimize for gaming only, allowing them to keep the hardware costs cheaper. And so there are already predictions out there based on what, for example, reliable leaker Kepler L2 believes, based on what he knows to be the chips that each respective next-gen console will use. According to Kepler 6, he believes that the PS6 and next-gen Xbox prices will be as follows. PS6 hardware will cost $600 and next-gen Xbox will cost $1,200, because Xbox, while significantly more powerful, it also has to have better components in general across the board to make it a usable PC experience. And so it has to be that expensive if this is the route that next-gen Xbox is going for, whereas PS6 can still be $600 with the AMD chip that is rumored to be used for that console. Now, these are rumors and estimates, so don't take this as, gospel. But given how expensive the Xbox ecosystem has become as a result of Microsoft's interference and that 30% profit margin mandate, I would not be shocked if there's some validity to this, or if the final results when PS6 and next-gen Xbox do launch is close enough to this. And if that is the case, then Xbox is really fucked, because, you're in third place and you have to offer some kind of incentive for people to switch over, and a next-gen console or PC console hybrid that is twice the price or, significantly higher price than the competition that is dominating the market isn't going to do you any favors. And then when those plans end up failing because it is just too expensive of a device to be sold en masse, and it ultimately doesn't help Xbox meet that 30% profit margin quota, the next steps will be even further cost-cutting measures on the part of Microsoft. So from the internal corruption and disease that is that 30% profit margin mandate for Xbox to what plans look like currently, in large part because of those 30% profit margins, forcing Xbox to kind of deviate and change strategies and change course and go back on their past promises and their past intents, we're looking at a situation where I think Xbox is in extremely poor position. I think Microsoft is ultimately setting Xbox up for failure. I suppose only time will tell how all this will play out, but nothing about recent reports and recent goings-ons and recent strategy shifts on the part of Xbox and anything about their decision-making, and then with this 30% mandate report, none of it is providing any semblance of hope for the future of Xbox in the way we want this platform to be, in terms of the potential that it has to compete with the likes of Nintendo and PlayStation. And it just sucks to see what's going on behind the scenes and how much of that is really killing Xbox and being this cancerous disease for Xbox that's going to spread from within. And by the end, I don't think we're going to recognize this brand if this is the direction that they're taking, and if Microsoft's Eye of Sauron is forcing Xbox in this direction. But that's my take. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.
The sprawling FBI probe into mafia-linked gambling and sports rigging schemes is sending shockwaves across the NBA and across the United States. You're looking right now at the high-tech cheating technology that federal officials allege was used to rig poker games, an X-ray poker table to see through face-down cards, a manipulated shuffling machine to predict who gets the best hand, used, officials say, to steal millions from victims. Joining us now is casino game protection and cheating expert Sal Piasanti. Sal, an X-ray table, card reading chip trays, rigged shuffling machines. I didn't know this stuff existed. I guess I'm not surprised, but I didn't know it existed. Can you explain how any of this equipment is used?
Oh, I can explain all of it. The X-ray table. That's just a table that has cameras built into it that look upward at the cards. It can actually see through the green felt So you can use any of cards. As long as the cards lie above the camera can see what that card is and then transmit it. The shuffle machines. We just did a special on YouTube, and where a shuffle machine was hacked. What happens is the Deckmate 2 has a camera in it. And what that camera does, it notifies the casino or the dealer or the house if a card is missing. Also, if you took a deck of cards and put it into that machine, the cameras know every card and can actually sort that deck out and put it back in order for you for the next day or the next play. Well, the cheaters came up with ways of utilizing that camera as well to know what cards are being dealt and who's getting them. And that shuffle machine is altered to transmit to an earpiece to tell the people who are going to win. Also, there are machines that were also designed to do a false shuffle, where when the cheaters put the deck into the machine, it sounds like the cards are being shuffled, but they're not. And then as far as the analyzer, the tray, this has been around for a long time. It's not new by no means. If you want to see a quick example of it, it could be built into the tray or it's built into a cell phone. And basically what happens is this. You could take this deck of cards. Well, first of all, this is a regular phone. It looks like a regular phone. Put your SIM card in it, and it acts like a regular phone. But when I put in a code, now it becomes a cheating phone. So let's go to Texas Hold'em. How many players? Let's say you can name any amount. We'll say 3 to keep it easy. 3 players. And I'm going to put this on loud so you can hear it. So I'm going to put it on speaker.
Okay.
And now it's ready to go.
Yeah.
So when this deck of cards right now is shuffled, it could be in a shuffle machine. It doesn't make a difference. When the dealer takes them out and cuts them, listen to the phone. 3-2. That means right now, seat 3 is going to win. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Ace 5 is winning. Here's your burn. There's your flop. 2 pair. Burn, flop, burn, and seat 3 wins. This phone will tell you who's going to win. You heard it out loud, but this phone would also transmit to an earpiece.
Yeah.
This system could
can I just
also
ask
be
you
designed built.
Yeah.
Anything.
But the earpiece thing, is that also relevant for the camera under the table that can read through the felt? Because the dealer is not under the table. He's not seeing it. So somebody else is seeing these images and speaking to the dealer or whomever in their earpiece. Is that right?
Go here.
Correct. That's right. That information is transmitted elsewhere, and that person receiving the information sends it back. And the earpiece, believe me, is very tiny. This is one of the earpieces that I demonstrate. I don't know if you can see that.
You got to move the camera. Hold it up a little bit. Oh my God.
That's it.
That's pretty teeny.
So right
that's
before
like a 1 milligram
pill. Try to finish this. And then
totally.
Do
And it goes right into the ear. So now, right now, that
might
earpiece
tags.
is right next to my
We
eardrum.
could take gang territory as we search for tags.
If you were
I could
talking
go
to me,
hand in
sitting
hand.
right next to me, you could look in. You can't see it. When my partner's talking to me, I hear it so loud. And there's only one way to get that out right now. Magnet.
Yeah, I was going to say. Oh my God, yeah, because otherwise it's going to go in forever and cause you depth perception problems. Sal Piasanti, I could do 6 hours with you on this. This is fascinating. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your expertise.
Joining me now, James Whelan, Executive Director of the Tennessee Institute for Gambling Education and Research, also Editor-in-Chief of the Journal of Gambling Studies. Good to have you here. First, let's talk about this case. 11 states, active NBA coach, NBA player, working on inside information, including, information on LeBron James's injuries, right? It's quite remarkable. Unprecedented in terms of the extent of this?
Oh, not at all. This has existed for over 100 years. I mean, think about the famous Black Sox story, the 1960s, the NIT, but very recently we've heard a number of stories where there are players, coaches, those involved with pro leagues and college leagues who've broken the rules.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm thinking of the baseball players, right? We have active pitchers, right, on the Cleveland Indians, who are taking part in this kind of thing. It just strikes me, been watching this for some time, given all the money involved in sports gambling today and how widely it's promoted. I watch a lot of sports. I mean, gambling is like plugged into the coverage of it, right? Should we be surprised that you see this kind of illegal activity?
I would say not. I think that the cultural evolution around sports betting and how now gambling is part of every conversation. It used to be that people talked about sports, the numbers, the percentages, the hitting, the points, but now they talk about the lines, the over-under. But it's just not people generally, it's actually the commentators, it's the networks, it's social media, that you can't separate that. It's the gamification of sports, that they're now one and the same thing. So it's not surprising.
I mean, I'm wondering why pro sports and government aren't seeing the risk and enacting restrictions, because obviously it affects the integrity of the game, right? I mean, that's the concern here, and yet the NCAA just approved a rule change that allows athletes and athletic staff to bet on professional sports. I mean, what are they thinking?
Yeah, I think that the leagues, including the NCAA, gets a lot of benefit from greater viewership, greater related to the ability to allow or be close to betting and gambling. And so that connectedness between those two industries are such that people aren't paying attention to the risk. They may spoil everything because the integrity of the sport is what is going to drive things in the end. If people stop, we know from lots of research, when people stop believing in something, they turn sour on it, they'll turn away. It's inherent that the leagues need to find a different voice here.
You hear from some folks who defend sports gambling that the technology is so great that the leagues can easily identify suspicious activity, as they did to some degree here, right? They looked at a big jump in betting in a short period of time on one player's over-under, and they're like, hey, wait a second, something bad's happening here. I mean, is that true? That the technology is good enough that you can see this stuff when it happens?
That's all you got?
Yeah, it's not clear. That technology is kind of behind a curtain. So it's very hard to figure out whether they're catching them or whether or not there's a lot going on. They're just catching the most blatant of the experiences. It's completely not clear.
Yeah, I'm sure, because the gamblers have a big incentive to get ahead of the technology, right? Got to spread their bets around. James Whelan, thanks so much for joining us. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, the morality of what's going on has eroded over time as greed maybe takes over from how to maintain integrity.
Yep, and you hear a lot of young kids getting in it too, right? And it happens. Ed Will, thanks so much for joining us.
A whole nother story.
Big Daddy in the house. Hey, Jim. Hey, Derek. Hey, son. Hey, Bob. Jimmy. Loser. James. Mother. Jimbo. Actually, it's Chisel. No! No! What's going on, Trace? Trace. Look out! JC! No! Hey, Ava. You're working hard. I love it.
A sprawling FBI probe into mafia-linked gambling and sports rigging schemes are sending shockwaves across the NBA and the United States. This is all part of two different major federal investigations dubbed Operation Nothing But Bet and Operation Royal Flush. The accusations in the indictments are rather shocking. NBA players faking injuries, underperforming in games on purpose, even giving insider tips about other players such as Lakers star LeBron James. Then there is the separate case, rigged poker games, where officials say high-tech cheating technology, including special contact lenses and x-ray devices that could see through face-down cards. That technology was used to steal millions from victims. So far, 34 people have been arrested, including Portland Trail Blazers head coach and Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups and Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, as well as former NBA coach and player Damon Jones. 13 members and associates from 3 different New York mafia families. Yes, I'm talking about that mafia, the Gambino and Genovese crime families, among others, also arrested. CNN's Bryn Gingras has more on the arrests and the shocking allegations that are making the NBA season's opening week rather unprecedented.
Your winning streak has ended.
A takedown of an alleged gambling criminal enterprise linking 4 New York City mafia families and NBA stars.
Welcoming Chauncey to the Hall of Fame.
Portland Trail Blazers head coach and Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups, Miami Heat star Terry Rozier, and Cleveland Cavaliers alum Damon Jones, among more than 30 people arrested for their alleged involvement in one of 2 elaborate schemes involving illegal betting on NBA games or rigged poker games.
Let's not, mince words. This is the insider trading saga for the NBA.
One document describing Rozier and Jones sending insider tips on players and teams, such as whether a player, including Rozier himself, was going to be sidelined or sick, placing bets to favor their odds and maximize profits, and then allegedly laundering their winnings, totaling millions of dollars.
They placed wagers on unders on players to score less, rebound less, assist less, using information that was not yet public. In some instances, players altered their performance or took themselves out of games to make sure that those bets paid out.
In a second scheme, Billups and Jones allegedly teaming up with members of La Cosa Nostra crime families in underground poker games.
The scheme targeted victims known as, quote, fish, who were often lured to participate in these rigged games by the chance to play alongside former professional athletes who were known as, quote, face cards. What the victims, the fish, didn't know is that everybody else at the poker game, from the dealer to the players, including the face cards, were in on the scam.
They allegedly also used high-tech equipment to rig play, like this x-ray machine, which authorities read cards that were face down on a table. Also used hidden cameras and altered shuffling machines which
read the cards in the deck, predict which player at the table had the best poker hand, and relay that information to an off-site operator.
And then authorities say some defendants would resort to old-school mafia tactics to collect their earnings, such as robbery and extortion. I'm gonna wait outside poker games and pistol whip 5 winners a week, one text message read in court documents.
And Jake, you said that news of these arrests really just stunning the NBA in the week of its own openers. Rozier actually playing against the Magic last night, sitting out on the sidelines though, was arrested this morning in Orlando. His attorney says that he fully plans to fight these charges. And Billups, he coached his team, the Trail Blazers, last night and was arrested in Portland this morning. Both of them are going to be coming back here to New York to face these federal charges.
Spin me all the way around in a circle. It is almost every time. I guess I'm supposed to keep my hand on the directional. Yeah, and then I could counter it, I guess, would be the argument.
Thanks so much. Let's bring in for more discussion.
But I like controlling my camera, dude. I really do.
Barrett Berger, who has prosecuted organized crime and racketeering cases in the Eastern District of New York, as well as USA Today sports columnist Christine Brennan. Barrett, the charges for the more than 30 involved in this illegal sports betting scheme range from wire fraud to money laundering, extortion, and robbery to illegal gambling. How do you anticipate prosecutors are going to handle these two separate yet overlapping operations?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how these cases proceed, because while they do share some defendants, they really do allege pretty different schemes. My guess is they will be two separate cases that'll proceed on two separate tracks. This is really the type of case that the Eastern District of New York has done before, and they do incredibly well. This obviously was a very complex, long-term FBI investigation that involved what I have to imagine is a whole slew of investigative techniques, probably cooperating witnesses. But this is what the Eastern District of New York does. They are pros at putting together these sort of large-scale cases that often involve organized crime families. This is, the Eastern District of New York has been one of the leading districts that's prosecuted mob cases. So they will do this case the same way they do those other cases, which is, methodically dealing with their witnesses, putting forth documentary evidence, and I'm really interested to see what more we'll learn in the coming weeks and months about the link between the athletes and the organized crime families.
And I have to say, Christine, for those of us who are fans of the NBA, and I'm really excited the Sixers beat the Celtics, and VJ Edgecombe is just this amazing new player for us, and all the stuff. I know my Knicks fan friends are really excited, and then all of a sudden this happens. How are NBA players and officials processing this all?
It is a shock. This is bombshell news, although in many ways, those of us who, and most people have been aware of what's going on and watch commercials and see what's going on in the business world of sports and NBA, NFL, et cetera, Jake, is, this is a bombshell that is probably the least surprising news we could have. And that is a cynical view, certainly, but the idea that these leagues now are absolutely lockstep in business with gambling and betting sites and organizations. You see the commercials, you leave for a minute, you come back to the room, you see more commercials about betting and gambling. So no one should be surprised by this. And in fact, in many ways, we should have seen it coming a mile away. There certainly has been gambling, as you well know, in sports. We can go back to the 1990 Chicago Black Sox scandal. This is not new. But what's new in the last few years, since the Supreme Court decision in 2018 legalizing gambling in the states, what's new since then is the way that these sports leagues that used to put up a wall against gambling companies and not even wanting to go to states where there was gambling, now they're completely in lockstep, in sync, and that is why I think this is just the beginning of a real nightmare for a lot of these pro sports leagues.
And Christine, do you think the NBA is going to crack down on this, or just let law enforcement handle it?
The players do get seminars. They are told don't do this, right? So I think the NBA will continue. And, again, the NFL has had it. Shohei Ohtani's interpreter was ensnared in something like this. So that's Major League Baseball, obviously not Shohei Ohtani himself. But the point is, this is everywhere. You've got lots of young people, mostly men, but women's sports, this could happen too, with lots of money and lots of free time, and probably not listening to their agents and their leagues and their coaches the way they should be when they are warned about the dangers of gambling.
Wasn't there, was it there?
And Barrett, how do cases of this size and scope usually get launched?
Was it here?
Insiders tipping someone off, somebody's arrested, and they squeal in exchange for leniency or financial documents.
There's a dirt road that goes around it, right?
Typically?
So, yeah, there's a dirt road that winds.
Yeah, that's a great question.
There's the
I
big
think your
ear.
first comment was probably my
winds
instinct.
around the mountain
Usually
up to
cases
the
like this
spot.
start with some sort
This
of
could be
inside
it.
information.
This could be it right there.
It's really hard
Could be it right there.
to get this type of information without a cooperating witness. So, a typical way that these cases would start would be somebody would get arrested on an unrelated charge, and in exchange for some sort of leniency, they'd start cooperating. They'd start saying, hey, if you think I'm bad, let me tell you about all the stuff that's going on over here. How else do cases like this start? Sometimes they start with investigative journalists who expose something that looks a little shady or fishy, and then the authorities follow that. Here, given the nature of the allegations, it would be hard for me to imagine starting this without some side of an insider, right? Somebody who was either at one of these rigged
Yep,
poker
that's the
games.
Pueblo.
Maybe there was a victim
stuff,
that
bro.
then went to the authorities and said, you know, look, this happened to me. I don't know that this was right. And then they were able to sort of chip away. As far as the nothing but bet operation, you know, maybe it was somebody who, you know, either a player or somebody who got ensnared, but probably an insider.
By the way, I mean, kudos to whoever
got a
came up with
parachute.
nothing but bet. I mean, that's one of the best names for an investigation I've ever heard. Much better than Crossfire Hurricane. Christine Brennan and Barrett Berger, thanks so much.
Can I just give a big thank you? This is my thank you note to all of you for your generosity last Sunday, which was Mission Sunday. All right, Mission Sunday celebrated in every parish in the world, not just in countries that are able to help, like we're so blessed here in the United States, but even in poor countries, they sacrifice to help other missions. The Society for the Propagation of the Faith, Pontifical Mission Societies, they benefit from this collection. We had here, I hope you were able to listen to it, I had invited Cardinal Giorgio Marengo, who is the bishop in Mongolia, where about 0.1% of the population is Catholic, and where the overwhelming majority of the country have never heard the name of Jesus or the invitation and teaching to salvation that Jesus, the Son
Hi,
of God,
Carl.
offers
Hey,
us.
girl.
So to have him preach
Hey, young man.
brought
Let's go and
home
get some food.
the priority
I'm down
of
with that.
missions in our lives. Thanks for being generous on Mission Sunday.
Among the beautiful pageantry of Christmas are images indelibly impressed upon the symbolic landscape.
Yeah, okay. Straight. Let's see.
Nice law-abiding neighborhood. I used to be married to a real bastard.
Yeah, go on.
Go here. Yeah, you actually have to go south. Go south and then north. Okay. Okay, let's do this. Go south. South. Oh, look how pretty. The junction is marked.
I got 2 kids and my job to hold down.
Yeah, this is really interesting.
Right there. It's that one. Ooh, maybe not. I guess I'm going the wrong way. Which will be a little risky here. Oh. On the other side of the road. Okay.
My husband called me a control freak.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I've eaten myself to bliss. Sorry. CJ, would you mind taking me home?
Crime figures have shot up all over the state.
Yeah, go on.
You want to be right in here.
We don't get much drug-related crime out here in the desert.
Oh, why?
We get a shallow grave report every couple of weeks.
Yeah, this is really interesting.
This whole desert is crawling with CIA.
Uh-huh, yeah.
You fancy a coffee or something?
Cool.
Oh, oh.
I ain't insecure, but tell me I'm great.
We will definitely be doing that again.
Loves women too. For the
Eyes are wide, but stop a truck. I got what you need. Best not to mention where you got that, okay?
Freedom means the ability to defend yourself, whatever the cost. Welcome to ammunition. You've made the smartest decision of your life. You've come to a gun shop.
I didn't sell you this, right?
Don't forget to check out our selection of landmines. They're the gift that keeps on giving, year after year. Mother-in-law being a bitch? Ammunition is the solution. Why not check out our selection of flamethrowers?
Have fun.
We've got a special on hand grenades.
If the cops ask, you didn't get it here, okay?
Check out our grenade launchers. Pop it in, pull the trigger, and boom! You've blown a hole in something. Sign up today for your ammunition frequent sniper card. Buy 10 guns and your next one is on us. Thanks for visiting.
The wars are coming, you hear?
We don't need a background check. The one of American currency. Conflict time. Story of powder is enough. Coming soon. Armor-piercing bullets. Ask our salesman about every sportsman's favorite, the
You've heard me yap and whine about the overabundance of subscription services literally wringing people's wallets like towels just for the most basic of services and products. Pretty much everything now is trying to ham-fist a subscription into the business model to always be able to hose you down and shake you down for your lunch money. Obviously, the biggest culprit and the one that has really pushed the needle on this practice of subscriptions for everything is streaming platforms, and this is one that I have endlessly hawked loogies on. There are now more streaming platforms than there are pizza places in America, I imagine. There is a new streaming platform born every day for the most hyper niche shit, where they might have 5 titles but still charge you like $15 a month for the privilege of watching all 20 minutes of content they have on their service. It's terrible. Not only that, they have the gall to keep increasing prices even though these behemoths have their catalogs weakened constantly because it's so cannibalistic, where they'll lose the licensing rights for a season of their show and it'll get picked up by a different streaming platform. Like Pokemon is the most infamous example, where in order to watch every season of Pokemon for the whole series, you would need like 12 different subscriptions to 12 different services because all of them are divided so like chaotically. And that's the song and dance for so many of these streaming giants, where their catalog keeps getting weaker, yet they keep charging more for it. Like most recently, HBO Max announced their price increases, much to the chagrin of any sensible person on the planet. It's just so expensive, and it's just out of control. But I don't want to just yap about something that I've already blabbered on quite a bit. Instead, I want to focus more specifically on just how awful subscriptions have become for every industry ever. It has infested everything. It is an infection that is showing no signs of slowing down. It is spreading everywhere, and there is no better example than what I just learned about. Coming straight from Kohler's asshole to your asshole, they are introducing a toilet accessory that's basically a little camera that'll analyze your poop for you. And guess what? You have to pay a subscription fee for the privilege of having your fecal content analyzed here. So you get a shitter attachment here, like you're making a fucking Call of Duty loadout, you're putting a red dot sight on here, and you have to pay a subscription on top of it. That blows my mind. Why is that a subscription? What the fuck? I want to be clear. There are some things that a subscription makes sense for. If there's like a reoccurring purchase of something that you plan on getting long term, as long as there's like an ease of cancellation in there, I don't have like a problem with subscriptions in principle. I have a problem with the way that subscriptions are utilized for absolutely everything now, where it is just beyond exploitative. It is being shoehorned into every single product and service imaginable when there is just no reason for it. Like I said, there are legitimate good use cases of subscriptions. If it's something that you're going to be buying every month, every other month, whatever, that makes sense. I get that. This, I don't get at all. Why the fuck would this be a subscription? You've already bought the piece of technology. There is no reason to continue shaking your piggy bank out here for it. And it costs a pretty penny too. It is not cheap. You are shelling out 599 clams to get your hands on the Dakota clamps here. So basically, what this accessory is a device that clamps over the rim like a toilet bowl cleaner and points an optical sensor at your excretions and secretions. It'll analyze the images to detect any blood and reviews your gut health and hydration status. And there's apparently multiple plans to choose from that can range from $70 to $156 per year. That is, I imagine, on top of the $600 entry fee just to have that piece of technology, which, if you don't pay the subscription for, you basically just bought a paperweight. You bought a fucking brick that is attached to your toilet bowl if you don't pay the subscription, because it just won't work. It's so silly to me. You don't even own your shitter associate here clamped to your toilet bowl. You have a brief permission slip to access it and use that technology as long as you're paying the subscription fee, as long as you're suckling on their ditties. We are fully in the age now of you will own nothing and be happy. That is where we are. You actually basically own nothing at this point, and that is the way every industry is gearing towards. It is pushing everything to just, you have the idea of a product or service. You don't actually have your paws on anything. There's nothing real there. It's all imaginary. You are granted limited access with the fee that you pay for it, but can be taken away at any time for basically any reason at this point. It is truly an age where you actually pay for things but don't own any of it. I cannot believe that something like a toilet bowl accessory is now having a subscription model attached to it. Now, I don't even hate the idea of this item, by the way. It is like an important thing to monitor like your gut health. Like there is a lot that your poop can say about your health, and it is something a lot of people overlook. So something like this could actually be like really helpful to some people. It could even potentially save lives. There's definitely that possibility as well, but it can only do that if you're willing to pay a subscription fee for it. That's unbelievable. That is unfathomable to me. I can find no justifiable explanation for why this would require a subscription fee. You already have it. It is already doing what it was designed to do. There's no need to continue to pay for it to do that. You already have the technology right there. You got the little fucking doodad gizmo right there, and it's doing what it's designed to do. What is the subscription for? It's not like there's some kind of doctor on the other end of it that's getting paid a salary that you're paying for his input on or anything. You have it. It's working, but they can revoke your access if you don't keep paying for it with the subscriptions. I think we are getting dangerously close to the point where even something like flushing your toilet bowl will require a subscription with different plans for it. Like you get 5 poops per week with these flushes, and then if you pay more, you get up to 10 poops per week that it'll flush with this amount of power. And if you want to sign up for the premium plan, you'll even get like a jet booster where it'll really flush the shit out of that poop. Like, I just think subscriptions are going to infiltrate literally everything. They already are. Now let's go ahead and dig into this product a little bit more to learn about it, I suppose, since I'm already yapping on it. Apparently it works by using a fingerprint sensor, so you'll sign in by giving it your fingerprints. This is another thing. Every single product and service wants as much biometric data on you as possible. So now, even having your shit looked at through a fucking camera will require some kind of biometric data to be gathered on you. Oh my god. But don't worry, you can trust Kohler with all of that. It says it secures your data via the fingerprint scanner and end-to-end encryption, and notes that the camera uses discrete optics looking only at the results, not your body parts. Dakota's sensors seed down into your toilet and nowhere else, the company says.
Oh, all
That's
those
wonderful
fucking
news, and we
dates
know
made
that
me
there's
fat.
never been
Yeah,
any
you
kind of data
fuckers.
breaches, and no one's ever lied about how secure
That's
things
what
are.
did it.
So we can take them at their word here, knowing full well that all of that data is super safe and encrypted, and there's not going to be any weird kind of peeping toms using this technology for nefarious, perverted purposes or anything like that. We can sleep easy with that knowledge locked securely in our brains here. This will be hiccup-free. And just think about how cool it'll be to use your toilet and give it your fingerprint scan in order to optimize your bathroom experience. Just imagine for a second, though, just play around with this. Hackers get into your Kohler Dakota and steal your fucking data through your toilet bowl accessory. I mean, everything is getting data breached. Like, every single service has had huge leaks recently. Now imagine once this is on the table, they get the fingerprint scans and whatever else that it happens to accumulate. Also, something kind of fun to play with. Imagine putting this on all of your toilets or something, and you have like company over, and they see that, and they're like, what the hell is this? You're like, oh, no, don't put your fingerprint on that, no! Then all of a sudden it logs a brand new set of poop. You just having friends over for a Super Bowl party or something, and then all of a sudden your phone's blown up with notifications from your Dakota app. Player 2 has entered the arena. Player 3 is in the lobby now. And it's like all this information on their poop and
Horrible
gut
camera,
health
bro.
and all that shit.
Horrible
I
fucking
actually got
camera
a little,
action there.
guest star of my own.
What the
I don't
fuck,
know if you can hear
dude?
that, but I just blew a little ass there. Anyway, though, I don't even hate the idea of the product. Like I said, I think that is actually, could be, a very valuable service to provide, given a reasonable price point and no subscription fee. The more I think about it, the more I hate this one in particular. The idea that this product could actually really help some people, like even be life-saving to a certain degree, and then locking that behind a perpetual paywall with this subscription fee, that just feels even more deplorable than most subscription models. That's pretty crazy to me, actually. Like, stay on top of your health, but only if you are financially able to perpetually do that. $156 per year, on top of the $600 you paid to have the device on the toilet in the first place. I hate that. I really do. Anyway, I really hate how everything is getting a forced subscription fee on top of everything. Every single business seems to be gravitating towards it. It sucks. Anyway, that's really about it. See ya.
Two black dots that move repeatedly,
Wait, nice.
sticking together and separating.
Oh, no. One
In
use.
fact,
One
each of
time
these
use.
dots is a
Ah,
proton,
super sad.
a fundamental particle that makes up matter.
One time use.
An international research team, including the University of Nottingham in the UK, has announced that they have succeeded for the first time in filming atoms bonding together and separating. They have captured the movement of atoms in a tiny world that is 1/500,000th the width of a human hair on video. The research team filmed the two atoms of rhenium, atomic number 75, that they were observing, by placing them inside a carbon nanotube and restricting the movement of the atoms. To film, they used a 10-deg electron microscope, which observes by shining a beam of electrons, particles smaller than atoms, on the object. According to the observations, the two rhenium atoms first bond to form a molecule, and then vibrate and move apart. When the distance exceeds the sum of the radii of their atoms, the bond breaks, the vibration stops, and the protons become independent of each other. They then shorten the distance and bond again to form a molecule. The results of this research have been published in the American journal Science Advances.
Thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure. Little singing in the rain there.
Yes. Yes, actually that was played in
Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange, that's
Yes,
right.
yes.
Did you get in
Of course,
trouble?
you're too young, aren't you, to have seen that movie?
No, I saw it.
Oh.
There was, I saw it at the mall with all my other 13-year-old friends. Would you get in trouble for using that? You used Singing in the Rain in a very strange...
You can get anything in America if you pay for it.
Because in A Clockwork Orange, it's used in very disturbing scenes. And I thought maybe Gene Kelly would flip out, but he quieted down when they gave him the satchel of money.
I don't think that Gene Kelly wrote the song, so he didn't get it. So, but I don't think that Gene Kelly was too thrilled with the fact that I was raping a lady and beating up her husband while singing in the rain.
Right.
But the truth is that
he didn't go to the theater and say, "That's my song."
Yeah, really.
Wow, cool.
What a neat way. What a neat and new way of looking at that song, you know. But the fact is, it was an homage to him because in that scene, I'm supposed to be euphoric. And so when I was rehearsing it, I just started to sing.
You improvised that in
yeah,
the scene?
Yeah.
Your character Alex is he's a dangerous delinquent. He travels with a gang.
But his one redeeming feature, he loves Beethoven.
Oh, I thought it was that he wore a bowler.
Well, that's another redeeming feature, but that's just to say that he's English, you know.
Well, this was it was a very disturbing movie. It came out. When did it come out? In 71?
Yeah, 1971. It's like when I see bits of it now, it's like looking at my son, you know. It's so long ago. It's so weird for me to see that movie now.
Well, it had a big impact on young people everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very pre-punk in a way. You know, the.
It is pre-punk. It was the yeah. I mean, in some newspaper, I think they described me as the father of punk, which was kind of
because of that movie.
Yeah.
And the way you talk in that movie is very arresting. It's
yes.
you have your own language in that movie.
It's a wonderful language that Anthony Burgess, who has since passed on to that one up in the sky. Unfortunately, he died a couple of weeks ago. But he wrote this a novel while from remembrances when he was in Moscow, and he was he'd go into a coffee bar, and these punks, these Moscow punks. This is in the I guess late 50s, early 60s, would press themselves against the glass windows and kind of looking at him in a very threatening way. And because he told me that he had this image in his mind about this, and the language is partly Russian, babushka, chelovek, and...
Can you give us a little bit of it?
Well, yeah, I'll give you a little bit of it. Howdy, howdy, howdy. your friend and humble narrator. How about a little of the old in-out, real horror show?
That's a great language. It's a great language. You did the movie that probably had a bigger impact on me. I grew up in Boston, and when Caligula came out, it was a big deal.
I heard it had a big influence on you, didn't it? It has. I can see it in the show. I can see that it had a big influence on you. The way that you do the show kind of reminds me.
Yes, it's a lot like I'm a lot like a mad emperor when I come out
here.
here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But in Caligula, it's first of all, it was a movie that was. Guccione was behind the movie. Is that right? Bob Guccione of Penthouse.
Yeah, he was behind the movie in every way.
And were you aware that the movie was going to be that sexually explicit? I've heard it rumored that because Peter O'Toole's involved, John Gielgud's involved. Sir John Gielgud, sorry.
A Knight of the Realm in a porno movie.
It's a porno movie.
That's what I said to him. How come, Sir John, that A Knight of the Realm is in a porno movie, you know?
Oh, I don't think so. It's rather a good film, isn't it? I've just come from the set. Have you seen all that? I've never seen so much in my life.
And say, no, John, I haven't been on the set yet.
Oh, I've never seen anything like it. He said the band's all naked. You can see their asses and everything.
And he still had no idea.
Oh,
Sir John Gielgud had no idea.
On 3rd Avenue, he was shooting Arthur here, and he said, have you seen the movie? I said, well, no, I haven't. I'm rather disgusted by the... He said, oh, do go. It's frightfully good. He said, I've seen it 3 times.
I'm completely nude.
He wasn't, although he did die in the bath.
That's right, he died.
Took him 3 days to die.
Well, what was the set of that movie like? You guys must have been aware that something...
It's like ancient Rome. And it practically lasted as long as ancient Rome. I was there about a year, I think, doing this thing. It was hilarious, really. And Guccione, of course, what they did was they added explicit porno scenes about 2 years after we'd finished shooting the movie. So I'd be looking at a pet bird, and they'd put in a couple of lesbians or something.
Is this after you left for the day?
Yes, I'd gone.
You'd go for the day and they'd add lesbian scenes?
3 other movies, and then you'd cut back to me kind of going, And it didn't even fit because the photography was all grainy, a completely different photography. You could see that it didn't match, nothing matched at all, but it didn't matter. It still made over $100 million, they say. I'm still waiting for my check, Bob. Bob.
You got 50%, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It was a man, that movie has some incredible scenes in it, which you say you weren't there for all of them.
Not all of them.
They bring in donkeys
No, I wasn't there. Yeah. Oh, no, I did. I had a wonderful scene in bed with my horse.
Okay, so you did do that.
That was actually me, yes. I actually got to bed. It was like the bed, I guess, was about 20 feet wide. And I said, well, why is it such a big bed? They said, your horse is coming into bed. I said, but a stuffed horse, right? They went, no, the real horse. I mean, you got to be kidding me, right? So it was a beautiful white stallion. I think that...
It doesn't matter.
No, but it does matter.
It was a really beautiful horse, though.
Yeah, so...
Really beautiful legs.
Kirk Douglas had ridden this horse, It was a beautiful horse. So what they did was they doped it up. And it was like, they put on this crane, and all I could see was this head with this huge tongue lolling out of it like this. I thought, my God, is this thing... They put the horse in the bed. Everyone was very quiet. And then I had to whisper in its ear, and I'm supposed to be in, heavy fever, and I've got sweat all over me, and I'm saying, incitatus. And of course, the real Caligula, the emperor, actually made this horse a senator.
It's sort of
it's really what happened.
It's like an episode of Green Acres, Animals are raised to high office. All right, well, we're out of time for this thing. We're going to step away for a second, and we will have more with Malcolm McDowell when we come back.
ProPlan. Fuel for life.
Hey, what's up, dawg? CJ, what's up, baby? Word.
Resist, sunshine. You can do it. For me, eh? Fucking Northerners. No, Macca. Fight the urge. Think of Thatcher.
You know it's my time again.
I know, dude. So what's holding you back?
Whoa, hold up. This is video. I gotta see this fool.
Hey, man, you clean now. You got nothing to worry about.
We're going to hang with the homies.
Man, that fake-ass Loke.
Loke? But he's terrible.
Motherfucker. I knew there was something familiar about those rhymes he was kicking. They're from my rhyme book. That's my money. And those are my hoes. And that's my video he's shooting today.
Okay. I say we make a cameo appearance. Just drop in unannounced.
Yeah, that's gangster. Come on.
Thatcher, I love you,
Oh, Macca.
Love you, Maggie.
You ain't right in the head, mate.
Let's drop in on OG Low. See if we can't interrupt that video shoot and recoup some royalties.
And my rhyme book. We're flying in style, baby. You got all the makers of a great manager car.
Saving till we spinning Loke's royalties.
Tell me how a fake buster phony like suck-ass Loke can make it in the rap game, CJ.
Music business is changing, dog. It's all about dance routines and showmanship now. Any fake-ass idiot can get a record deal these days.
So what am I supposed to do?
Dog, you got heart, you got natural style, you got ice-cold gangsters running through your veins. Anybody can get a record deal, but only the genuine article can shake down the house.
CJ, my man, you a natural manager.
Okay, so that's above ground and then it goes underground. Can't figure that. There's train tracks. It goes underground. That's above ground. It comes in somewhere. Wait, is it underground all through here?
He being interviewed, huh? Okay, let's smash this party up.
You fucking phonies! Sean, bitch! Give me my rhyme book! Give me back my chain! Give me back my hose!
He busting out. Come on, dog, let's get it.
Stay away from me!
I thought we were friends. Yesterday's news. Kids want low. LOC.
Sneaky. Sneaky, sneaky. Come on, guys. Ouch. Ouch. Ouch.
That's freaking me out.
I smoke 'cause it gives me peace of mind.
By two sacred holy beings, and they gave him the ceremony that is known as the Yebache. The season for the ceremony that's called the Nakai, that happens after the fall equinox, so that's around the month of October. But the origin of the dancing and the ceremony of Nakai involves the Yebache ceremony. And the Yebache ceremony, as we were told, has its origin with a young boy that was probably in the telling, they say he was about 12 years old. And he had two visitors that were holy people. Yeibana Aj Neohane, which is to say that he was visited by two sacred holy beings. And they gave him the ceremony that is known as the Yebache. But the original setting for the Yebache is that
Man, you guys are making this tough.
they call
Labor.
which is
Labor,
to
labor.
walk with the
Fuck,
holy
bros.
people, or walking among the holy
Working for it.
people,
Working
and
for it.
walking around
Jesus. Okay.
together in one
Shoot.
location.
Working.
Nakai is what they call it. And during the winter time, it is that that ceremony takes place. So it is that when the ceremony was given to the young boy, he organized it so that there were 12 dancers, and the head dancer is known as the Sheyati, or Hashteyati is the correct way to pronounce it. It is the speaker of peace. And then the other dancers, there were originally 12, and they were called Hashejawan, is what they call them, but the correct pronunciation would be Hashejahogan. Sometimes some of the Diné, when they tell that story, is they say that it is a house god or the growling god, Hashejawan, sounds like you're growling or saying house, but it is that Hashejahogan was the correct pronunciation. Way at the back of the dancers is the one that they call Toneneli, or Biche.
OG
When they refer to the ceremony, they say Yei, which is the one that's the head, Hasheyashki, and Biche is clear at the back. That's the Toneneli. Actually, the Toneneli is symbolic of us, the humankind, the five-fingered being. When the dancers line up, the dancers are supposed to keep an eye on the head dancer, which is the head yei, or the one that's representative of Hashayah, the speaker of peace. So when they line up, and when he takes that step to the left, then they take a step to the left. When he goes 2 to the right, they take 2 to the right. And when he turns around, they turn around as he does. Sometimes the the clown, he follows along, but most of the time he's out clowning around and making funny gestures and doing cute little things, and then he comes back and dances for a little while. And that's like us. But I think that the teaching is keep your eye on the head god or the head yei and follow them. Do what they do. And if they take 1 step to the left, you do the same thing. If they take 2 to the right, you do the same thing. If they turn around, you do identically. And so the teachings of that particular ceremony, there's a lot to it. They have a hogan, and they have a large sand painting that is symbolic of so many things.
Baby girl.
As a Dene, you're welcome to participate in those ceremonies when you make special arrangements and
Mama
see
got
all of
you
the
good
things
breakfast.
that they do. And also the dancing. The dancers have to be initiated into the group that will perform the dances. And there's a lot of information about the Yebiche dances and how it is that they prepare to have the ceremonies, and who the patients are that are identified in the ceremony. And some ways, when they used to do it in the past history, it was done as clan groups. The clan groups would do the ceremony for other clan groups. And so it was that's why they call it an akai, because they would involve all of the clan families and in the special event for the ceremonies. It would not just happen one time. They would have it at different locations for different clan families and that. And that's the way the Yebiche ceremony is performed, and a lot more information there as well. But I've shared with you just a small portion of the things that we are told.
The UK's King Charles and Queen Camilla pay a historic visit to Pope Leo at the Vatican this week for a moment of ecumenical prayer at the Sistine Chapel, and the beleaguered traditional Latin Mass returns to St. Peter's Basilica on October 25th as part of a TLM pilgrimage. For more on all of this, we're joined by senior Vatican correspondent for the National Catholic Register, Edward Penton. Ed, thanks for being here. Tell me about this historic joint prayer between King Charles and Pope Leo at the Sistine Chapel. It's the first time a Roman pontiff and an English monarch have prayed together since the Reformation. How significant is this moment for the Church in Rome and whatever's left of the Church in England?
Yes, it is very significant, Raymond. I mean, it comes at a time when the Anglican Communion is going through some very difficult times. We heard this week that a big part of the Anglican Communion split from Canterbury because of the choice of the new Archbishop of Canterbury, who's a woman bishop. So there's that, but it's also, as you say, very historic. It's the first time that Prince Charles, the King of England, has prayed with the Pope. The first time that a monarch has prayed with the Pope since the Reformation. The King, of course, is the Supreme Governor of the Church of England. So it's very much seen as a very ecumenical gesture. And there's other aspects to the visit too, which are very significant. Him going to pray and become a confrater of the Benedictine Abbey of St. Paul's outside the walls in Rome, which is also seen as a great gesture and a gift to the Anglican Communion in that sense.
I know that title was extended by the Pope to King Charles at the Basilica of St. Paul outside the walls. And but the real question here, Ed, is what does this mean? I know Charles is the head of the Church of England, but how much of a reality is that, given that we're dealing with largely a vastly diminished faith when we're talking about the Church of England? In fact, more Catholics are attending Mass there than people are attending the Anglican services.
Indeed. I mean, I think it's seen possibly as a sort of bit of a help to the Anglican Communion to keep them together. But it's come in for some criticism, of course, as well. Some people see it very much as a sort of superficial unity which covers up serious theological differences, and it's a sort of undermines, they say, both Anglicanism and Catholicism, these kind of gestures. But I was talking earlier with Oratorian Father and liturgical expert Monsignor Andrew Wadsworth, who's in Washington, D.C., and he was saying that, he reminded, of course, the roots of the monarchy are Catholic in England. In fact, Westminster Abbey is called St. Peter the Apostle, and it goes back a long way. And Vatican II teaches that the Anglican Communion has a Catholic hierarchical structure which impels it towards Catholic unity. And so these gestures, he said, give substance to the hope that the British monarch and the Church of England may one day be restored to unity in the Catholic Church. So in that sense, you could read it very much as a sign of hope, perhaps that unity will come some way down the line, but at the moment it's looking very, very distant, I'd say.
Yeah, well, I mean, that title, Royal Confrater of St. Paul, which is that special chair that the Pope is extending to Charles. I mean, I guess the underlying reality here is, what does that really mean when you have the Church of England still occupying Catholic properties, Catholic cathedrals, Westminster Abbey itself? This was a Catholic entity that Henry basically took possession of, and it's been in the hands of the Church of England ever since. And I know the Catholic cathedral is called a pro-cathedral because it still considers the original across town. But give us a sense of what this really means, Edward. What are people in England, how are they reading this, or are they considering it at all?
Well, that's a good question. I think most people have kind of checked out of religion a long time ago in England. Christianity, as we said earlier, there's very few go to church here. So it's seen as really probably quite a sort of irrelevant sort of gesture. And another thing to consider, of course, is that the Catholic Church has given many of these very benevolent gestures to the Anglican Communion, but they seem to get further and further away from the Catholic teaching. And so you have to ask yourself, what's the meaning of this? Is there really any purpose to this? And is it really of any use? And I think history shows that these don't really have much effect. But maybe, as Monsignor Wadsworth said, it does offer hope that perhaps there will be communion in the future. And, God works in mysterious ways, and that may happen.
Well, and with this new Archbishopric of Canterbury, it does kind of throw a monkey wrench into things, from the Catholic side of the aisle. But while we're seeing bans on the traditional Latin Mass, Ed, here in the United States, you report in the National Catholic Register this week that on October 25th, Cardinal Raymond Burke will celebrate the first Tridentine Mass at St. Peter's Basilica since Francis suppressed the ancient rite back in 2022. This liturgy is part of a pilgrimage that really sprang from Summorum Pontificum, which was Pope Benedict's motu proprio that allowed free practice and celebration of the ancient rite. What should people take from this celebration? How significant is it? Is it significant at all?
Yes, well, it is significant for the reasons you mentioned, Raymond. I think the fact that it was suppressed since 2022 and now it's come back does give a sign of hope that maybe, that there will be a relaxation of the restrictions from Traditionis Custodes. And the Washington Post reported this week that Monsignor Marco Agostini, who's a leading advocate for the traditional Mass and a member of the Papal Master of Ceremonies, he said that this obviously came from the top. It came from the Pope himself. So that is a sign of hope, I think, for many who go to the traditional Mass, that this could be a sign that times are changing. And then, of course, you've also got Cardinal Matteo Zuppi of Bologna, who's no traditionalist, but he's celebrating Vespers in Rome as well as part of this pilgrimage. He's done it before, but the fact that he's come back to do it again, when he hadn't done it since 2022 either, does show a sign of movement, we think, and that it could be possible that, yes, we may see some change in the relaxation of Traditionis Custodes.
Well, when we interviewed Cardinal Raymond Burke several weeks ago, he suggested, I think we did it for the podcast, and he suggested that there could be an opening here while saying the Mass there, that the Pope might have a conversation with some of the people who turned up for this Jubilee, for this pilgrimage, and that might present an opportunity to at least awaken the Pope to the desires of this group of faithful and why they feel so drawn to the old rite. And so hopefully that will transpire in the way that he foresees it or foresaw.
Indeed, yes. And as I say in the article, there are other pontifical liturgies going on in the United States as well over the next month, which is also a signal, I think, that that things will be allowed. Some did say that possibly the liturgy, the Mass in St. Peter's Basilica could be just because of the Jubilee year, and that things may go back to how they were next year. But we'll have to see. But I think certainly there are these signs of hope. And in fact, there are actually 6 liturgies. There's Cardinal Muller's actually celebrating a traditional Mass in Detroit this coming Sunday on the Feast of Christ the King in the Old Rite at the Shrine of St. Joseph. So there are more than I put in the article.
Yeah, and you mentioned in your article San Francisco Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone celebrating All Saints Day.
Come on, my beautiful.
Cardinal
We're
Gerhard
ready for you.
Mueller
I'm ready.
in
You're
Philadelphia
ready.
on November
It's
2nd.
ready.
Then Cardinal Robert Serra also celebrating the Tridentine Rite in Philly on November 21st.
Come on, baby
so
girl.
are these just one-offs, or is this a determined trend? I mean, some of the places we're talking about, like Detroit, the Tridentine Rite has been banned. So having somebody come in, it's really little more than a showcase, isn't it?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, it is interesting that they're being allowed. And of course, when you've got cardinals wanting to celebrate the traditional Mass, perhaps it's very difficult for the bishop to say no. And they're very keen to do it. And of course, we know that how keen someone like Cardinal Robert Serra is to keep the traditional Mass going. So it's all part of that. But as I say, these are all positive signs, and in many ways, it's also come since, of course, our colleague Diane Montagna
Donuts. Your mom got you some Halloween donuts.
behind Traditionis Custodes, if you like,
Friday.
and its credibility was severely undermined because of the misrepresentation of the survey, which was given as the justification for it. So there are serious cracks in the whole. The restrictions behind Traditionis Custodes, and perhaps this is part of that we're starting to see things sort of weaken, and that the relaxation will come in time.
Bless us, O Lord.
That's a really interesting point you raise, and it's an important one for the audience, those who might not have been following this as closely as we have. Diane Montagna several months ago revealed documents that we have never seen of that survey. Pope Francis allegedly sent out a survey to all the bishops of the world asking, hey, how is this relaxation of the Tridentine Rite that Benedict instituted, how's it playing out in your dioceses? And the word that we were told he got back was it was divisive, it was causing disunity, it was kind of these radicals, upset about the new Mass. Well, it turns out that depiction was wrong. When you read the actual return, the data that came back to the Vatican, where did that misrepresentation come from, Edward? Who's driving this is the question.
Well, yes, I mean, it wasn't, Pope Francis, of course, took responsibility for it, but the people around him, I think, were very much pushing this. And there was, of course, this theologian in Rome, Andrea Gurillo, who was thought to be behind writing the document, and he's very, very much anti-tradition. And so I think there's been a lot of that. I think many of them saw it as a chance for Pope Francis to push this, and of course they did.
Some ground sausage.
And did it seems very clearly that it was done in an underhand way. And so very much the argument, it runs against Traditionis Custodes and its validity, it seems, or at least its credibility.
Okay.
Yeah, and Traditionis Custodes, just for those keeping score, that was Pope Francis's legislation that essentially outlawed or vastly restricted the Tridentine Rite, considering it a source of division, which, if you go to any of these local parishes, as I have, it's packed out with young people who are thirsting for the faith, thirsting for tradition, and wanting something eternal to hold on to. and why that is such a danger or a threat in this church
You want some
today,
bacon bits?
in these times, in this society and culture,
Yes,
I
bagel
don't
sandwich.
understand. But
I'm not having
then
that's
again,
like
I'm not a
myself.
hierarch, and I have no
'Cause
position in the
I'm
Vatican.
yeah.
Thank you, Lord. Edward,
Over
we will
easy?
leave it there,
Yes. That's
and keep us updated on what happens as a result of this bill.
I'm not brave enough to try.
Will do. Thank you, Ray.
You can always find Edward Penton's excellent reporting at Edward Penton on
Okay,
X,
do me a favor.
also at
Do a bandage.
ncregister.com. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Ray.
Put it up.
This was King Charles III and Queen Camilla's entrance to the Sistine Chapel, where they participated in an ecumenical service and prayed with Pope Leo XIV. Notably, Queen Camilla donned the traditional black garb with a black veil to match, in line with Vatican protocol and
The AI
tradition.
like this
Pope
totally.
Leo himself wore the traditional red and golden
What's
papal
the code
stole
word?
and entered after
RAPE
King
me
Charles and
in
Queen
the
Camilla.
game?
The choirs of the
Did
Sistine
grape
Chapel,
me? No,
His
dude. It
Majesty's
was
Chapel Royal, and St. George's
use
Chapel
my
Windsor
the
sang together,
literally
as the
NPC
Pope
that
and
was
the
on the
Anglican
mission
Archbishop
with
of
me
York presided over the
to get in my
ceremony.
way and flip my thing over my vehicle, and it blew up, killed him and me. And I was just like,
The United Kingdom's Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper,
and I think I
from
found out
Romans
the
8
parachute
on
for
hope,
one-time
prayer,
use, which
and
is a bummer.
creation.
Okay, well,
But
you
if
gotta
we
go
hope
find
for
it.
that we see not,
And
then do
the
we
rocket
with
launcher,
patience wait for
it's
it.
like RE4 level. It's like
Likewise,
Resident
the
Evil 4
Spirit
level.
also helpeth our
You can jack shit up with
infirmities.
it.
For we know not what
Like
we
if a
should
bunch of
pray
guys
for
are
as
standing
we
in a
ought.
group,
But the
yeah, that's
Spirit
pretty
itself maketh
efficient.
intercession for us with groanings which cannot be uttered.
The ecumenical service also contained Latin chants and English prayers, like the Our Father, that the Pope and
I don't
King
know. I
Charles
was
prayed
looking
together.
at clips of GTA 5, you know, which is good, and it looks good, and I remember playing it. I maybe halfway through it, maybe. But
The service closed out with a
I think
prayer
that's
and a
what
blessing for Pope
Minecraft's
Leo
kind of proved
XIV.
too. Like sometimes things look too real, or like there's room for style, basically. Yeah. And you know, animation and look. Yeah.
in your own image.
Pope Leo XIV and King Charles III exited the Sistine Chapel together, talking quietly to each other. This is the first time in 500 years that the two Christian leaders have
Try to
publicly
that
prayed together, since King Henry
when
VIII broke
companies
from Rome in
keep trying to do more and
1534.
more realistic graphics. Yeah, I mean, and that's okay too, to a
but
point,
the
you know.
games still suck. And everybody's like, I don't care that you're making hair with circles now instead of triangles. I want a game that's not bad.
But the gameplay isn't game itself.
They don't have any. Well, so they just dump all their money.
But then you could argue, you know, that's the other games have to rely on gameplay. So it's a weird. The new Battlefield ain't bad. It seems like a pretty good balance between like trying to look realistic, but not. It's almost like a suspension of disbelief thing. Just, you know. Tarkov don't look bad sometimes. It's kind of trying to look realistic, but not photorealistic.
The devil.
Hey, buddy. Ready for a cold Yeah, it really does come down to style. It comes down to art.
I'm feeling 100%. Oh, no, I hope it's not something you hate.
Opinion.
I just... we have Pepto, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. I think we need to shovel off.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Scarlett. I hate to leave you.
No,
Pretty soon we're gonna, I mean, eventually, I assume, we're still kind of being.
Let's go say goodbye.
Let's go send them disruptive to the market, and I think why a lot of this shit hasn't quite happened yet. But you know, a lot more art-based games. So with like comic book art, there's no reason you can't have 3D comic books, dude.
Hey.
That are interact. Yeah.
You okay to drive?
Yeah.
There's that one Deadpool game that looks like a comic book. And it wasn't that good, but it looked good. It looked good.
But yeah, that's the new art, mixing gameplay with art.
All right, let's get started on those dishes. Come on.
Yeah, you can have one more.
You.
like what's called like undertone. I was just literally like 32 bit game. Not 32 bit. You know what I mean?
But it pulled it off.
But people really liked it, so it didn't matter that it looked like that.
Yeah, it's got the gameplay. It's just got to matter. That's so new about games, especially have But you could even argue Pac-Man in a weird way to art match the game in an abstract way. Nobody quite that really did. I don't know, I'm trying to cook bacon and eggs at the same time. See what happens. Let's do that. And more strawberries? That's your brother, yeah. He's hungry. She's hungry.
Hey, you okay?
Last night, I literally got out of the shower. Bam.
Call an ambulance! Call an ambulance!
I was talking to your cousin, Yeah.
I'll make the appointment. All you have to do is show up.
For what?
She was
3 hours in emergency
complaining
room.
about not being able to go to
All
sleep.
for nothing.
All they did was rule out a heart
They got
attack.
the whole
What if
nighttime
it happens
routine.
again?
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen again.
Tried to help.
How
I
can
was
you
like,
know
yeah,
that?
I
You
was
can't even say what it was in the first place.
Marie, baby,
complaining
I'm okay.
about
I'm
that.
fine. Trust me. Discussion over.
Those,
And do not tell Scott.
What? Why?
sure, everybody. It's a lot.
Let
It
'em off.
depends on,
Something to be embarrassed about.
how you're feeling at the time. Minds, worried about stuff, thinking about stuff. So.
I just don't want them to talk.
Oh, you didn't want them cut?
Oh, no, she likes them whole now.
That's my bad.
Yeah, he didn't know. You can handle it
I'll make sure not to cut them next
next
time.
time. Alright, got a plate?
Yes.
Cool. Is it ready? Almost. Okay. You want some of this bacon? I think it might be good.
I'll take some.
Let's go. Yeah. Alright, this is over easy. Yoki. I think the white's good. On it? Yeah. Might have overcooked it.
The Vatican, tightly guarded by soldiers in colourful uniforms. Their mission, to protect the Pope. Dario is one of them, and he takes us behind the scenes.
At the end of the day, my boss is the Pope himself.
Dario has been part of the Swiss Guard since 2025, but it's more than just a job. We join him as he is sworn in, vowing to protect the Pope with his life. What's life like at the heart of the Catholic Church? Where did the Swiss Guard get its name? And what motivates the young men in its ranks?
I mean, I don't want to die, but if it comes to it, I'm ready. So my name's Dario. I'm 25 years old, and I come from the canton of Graubünden. And I'm here in the Swiss Guard, protecting the Pope with my life.
We visit Dario in his new home. Vatican City is the world's smallest state, nestled among the streets of Rome. The Swiss Guard is posted at all entrances, recognizable by the colourful uniform.
I don't know how many Swiss Guards have already been taken of me. It's got to be hundreds, if not thousands, each hour that I'm standing there. You do have a flashy uniform that draws attention, that's for sure. It's also like a proud moment. Like you stand there and people are like, whoa, you got to take a picture of him. So
yeah,
cool,
I'm sure they do.
Whatever.
That's the deal. Oh, I see it.
But they're not just for show. The Swiss Guard has protected the Vatican for more than 500 years. First enlisted in 1506 by Pope Julius II for their loyalty and strength. To this day, only men from Switzerland serve here. The barracks are home to 135 guards. They speak a mix of Swiss German, French and Italian.
There are some really rich Catholics in this world too.
I'm in the room of 4 people, but this is my space. and everyone has kind of their own spaces.
Dario has lived and served here for a few months, but is yet to be sworn in. He shows us how he puts on his made-to-measure uniform, designed in the early 20th century.
They shot at John Paul, too.
That's when the Pope's all got glass, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's off now. Mm-hmm. He's back up there. That's his job. His job. His fucking job, bro. Just not be scared.
No!
The Pope's job is to not be fucking scared, Joseph. Will you throw me a piece of toast in, pretty please? Yeah. But that is literally his job, is to talk his head, whatever he's saying, and not be scared. Which you see what that'll get you in Japan, right?
Yeah.
Fucking, yep. I'm just saying, that's modern. We know what persecution looks like because of, you know what I mean, the Eastern country. Yeah. It's no joke. Oh, okay, dude. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, persecution, you know, they can argue about what's real in the past and all that. Like those Korean martyrs, the Japanese, that's within historical times. And turn on the TV for your sissy.
Like the burrito. Don't put your head under the cover.
She's fine. She's fine.
Your bandit, you need to take it off eventually. Because your wound is air.
I'm going to put on my uniform. So now I'm putting on my jacket. There's a lot of buttons on it, but they're just for show. I do have a zipper, and that's it. Now I still have to put on my belt, and with the belt my sword. Those pieces have to be shiny, so I'm going to give this a very quick polish.
Shiny.
Right, putting on the hat, and that's the complete outfit.
Dario is following in the footsteps of his father, who was sworn in as a Swiss Guard in 1989.
They took the Medici colors.
It's
like
a great
the
honor
old one
to
is
serve
still
here.
valid.
I search for the
They'll still wear it for a
do
while.
something with meaning.
Yeah.
And here I'm really serving
from the
the
Middle
Pope,
Ages.
Pope, head of the Catholic Church.
But
I'm part
it comes
of
from the
a
Medici
centuries-old
family,
tradition.
I guess, and they're
So
kind of
after I finished
controversial.
my bachelor's, I decided to join the Swiss Guard. My dad didn't pressure me into anything. He was also kind of
I think they
surprised
went to a more
when I said,
neutral one
yeah, I'm going to do it.
or something.
Because I never really spoke to him about becoming a Swiss Guard prior to that.
To do so, you must be male, unmarried, Catholic, between 19 and 30, and Swiss. The obligatory military service in Switzerland is followed by training at the Guard School. Recruits commit to a minimum of 26 months of service in the Vatican.
Here I do have a normal contract. We do get paid 1,500 euros per month.
2 years.
No
is
one's
not
here for
long.
the money.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you. I think it's a destiny because I don't know what called me, but I got called to do this service, and I'm not here for the money.
If you've ever opened 20 tabs on Google Scholar trying to figure out what the research says, watch
What
this.
does the research say, bro?
Dario is ready to give everything for the Vatican and Pope Leo XIV, even his life.
If he's getting attacked, I am standing in the way. That's what we do. It's a great honor serving the Pope, and if it means giving my life and I die young, at least I died for
So
a good
yeah,
cause.
it's a 2-year
I don't
enlistment.
want to die, but if it comes to it, I'm ready.
As part
For
of
now,
the security,
no one's coming
armed
close to the
security
Pope.
force.
We're doing our job.
Which is good
And the job
experience.
is different every day, depending on shifts and posts. Today, Dario does the
You're not
rounds
Swiss.
at the various positions, checking
Gotta
if
be
anyone
Swiss.
needs support.
All right, so now I will take you
Oh, they
on
just
my
said that,
trip
yeah.
through the Vatican,
Yeah.
where I'm in service as the patrouille. Right now, this is the main entrance to the Vatican City. It's called Sant'Anna.
The guards wear various uniforms based on their assignment. Here, the simple blue version is used. It attracts slightly less attention. Dario's suit also serves a similar purpose.
The suit do we wear to be dynamic, it's better to have a suit to be a little more discreet, to be able to move around freely.
He's on his way towards St. Peter's Basilica, staying informed through an earpiece, always ready if anything happens.
Sì, a posto. So right now we're at the Arco delle Campane. This is where most of the photos of our shield guards are taken, because this is also the exit of the Basilica. Here we do also guard the ones that come in. Our shield guard cannot talk. His job here is to stand for 1 hour without moving, without speaking, always watching straight forward, and that's why we can't ask him any questions. A lot of people try to get the reaction out of him, and that's when we have to keep our poker face, don't react. Machst das super.
And on we go to the next stop. Dario's daily commute takes him past the Basilica to the exit of the Vatican museums. Here too he checks if his colleagues need any help. Visitors are observed and, in some cases, checked, and the guards are armed in case of an emergency.
We are armed, even with swords. We haven't yet used the swords in action. No, they're more for representation. I mean, if it would be feasible to use a sword and it was justified, then maybe, but we are trained in other weapons than swords.
They are familiar with ancient weapons such as lances and halberds, but also with modern weapons. But Dario is not allowed to show them to us.
They're returning to the barracks. They're done with their service now.
Ceremonial.
All right, this feels almost illegal to know, but our windows were so old and just desperately needed to be...
Right now the post is very quiet, very calm, but I'm always ready to go off where I'm needed.
Dario also looks after guests, guides tours and helps at Mass. Experienced guards travel with the new Pope. Since he's taken office, there have been more appointments.
Our service has become way more dynamic because the Pope has become more dynamic, more flexible. He's quicker. We adapt always to the Pope. The Pope is giving the pace and we're keeping up.
Dario continues his service and prepares for his final swearing-in ceremony, originally scheduled for May, but then Pope Francis passed away. But now the big day has finally come. The guards are getting ready. The swearing-in begins with a church service honouring the 27 new guards. Dario leads the group.
I, as a drummer, was helping to set the pace when marching. So, of course, I was nervous, because after all, it's still a big day. I was like, yeah, what if I tumble when I turn around? What if I say something wrong?
But everything goes smoothly. It's a special moment for the Swiss guards.
So religion was always a part of my life. I mean, I did go to church, Easter and Christmas. But down here, I get the opportunity to experience the faith in a whole other view. I mean, there's a lot more symbolism inside the Mass. We do sing more down here. That's nice. So you can be as close to God anywhere in the world as you can be in the Vatican City. But here it's a lot of other things that remind you where you are.
While the Catholic Church is growing in some parts of the world, it is increasingly losing members in Europe, especially young people. The institution is under pressure. Abuse scandals, the lack of equality for women, and the exclusion of queer people are causing criticism. But since 2025, there has been a female head of government in the Vatican for the first time. But the Swiss Guard remains exclusively male for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things haven't changed in the Vatican. I do feel a little bit like I'm swimming against the current, but that's also part of the special experience.
This also includes the swearing-in ceremony, which is historic. For the first time in almost 60 years, the Pope is attending in person. The pressure is palpable. Uniforms, procedures, every detail must be perfect. Family and friends have travelled here to share this moment with Dario.
For me, it's a great honor because we're swearing to protect him with our life, and him being there, witnessing all that, shows also great respect from his part.
But Dario doesn't see any of this. During the ceremony, he moves as if on autopilot, drumming, vowing, marching off.
But I gotta be honest, when I was walking up to the flag, I didn't see left or right. I wasn't like, okay, the Pope is sitting there, there's the official, there's the flag, this and that. It's a great year. You're like in a movie. It happens. Just gotta let it happen.
Dario is now officially part of the Swiss Guard, serving the Pope. The Vatican will be his home for the coming months, perhaps even longer.
Being Swiss Guard, the whole experience is iconic from beginning to the end. It's all one unique experience.
Is there anything you would stand up for as passionately as Dario? Share your answers in the comments.